Have I got a Christmas treat for you today? Hello everyone, I'm Caroline, and today I am going to show you a compilation of lots and lots and lots of Christmas baubles. I made some themed Christmas trees and I really enjoyed those. It's great to focus on just one thing, but also you may not want to just focus on one thing. You may be looking for a selection of all different sorts of Christmas baubles. If so, then this really is the place for you. There are also a few bows in there, also some hints and tips for how to decorate your tree. So this is just full of exciting Christmas crafts and information for you. I've made it a long one because there is so much to put in there. I didn't want to cut out anything. So settle down, get yourself a cup of, tea, coffee, something festive, maybe mulled wine, and enjoy the video. Right, no time for chatting. Let's get on with crafting. I'm really looking forward to this country theme today for my Christmas tree. Don't forget to stay till the end because I'll be decorating the tree in the country style. And I'm going to start by making a Christmas garland in the country style. I'm going to use some twine in natural, I suppose, and some in red. I've got some little bits and pieces of red hearts and trees, stars, that sort of thing. And I've got bits of wood. Now, ideally, I would use smaller pieces of wood and they'd all be very even and uniform, but I don't have any, so I like to use what I got. I found all these little bits of driftwood. I've cut them into roughly 2-inch strips and then drilled a hole through the middle. Well, that's not very much in the middle, is it? That's dreadful. We'll hold this one up. I've drilled this right through the middle. And I'm going to use some little bits of shredded fabric. So I'll start by showing you what I do with the shredded fabric. I'm going to mark on my desktop 8 centimeters. So there's the beginning of the 8, there's the end of the 8, and it just saves measuring over and over again. I've torn the strips like that because I want them to look tatty. We're making shabby bow type things. Start off against the one line, so this is the one side of the shabby bow, and then build up some layers. This particular shabby bow is going to be in beiges and whites, and the other ones are going to be in red. So I'm layering about 7 pieces of fabric. Get a piece of twine, and then if that's 8 centimeters, then I can tie a knot there where the other piece of tape is, if you see what I mean. Nice and tight. And don't snip the ends off. Then rather than measure it again, fold it in half and chop it. It's a shabby tassel rather than a shabby bow, really, isn't it? Call it a shabby tassel, but it's sort of a bow as well. I want it to open out a bit. I don't want it to be like that. So now make lots more. I got a pile of browns and beiges and a pile of whites and reds. The next thing I do is measure off and cut a piece of twine the length I want the garland to be. As you can see, I've made a bit of a start because this is a long process, so I thought I'd get myself a head start before we begin because filming 10 crafts is quite time consuming, plus I've got to decorate that tree. I've got these different shapes, but they're not really the right colour scheme on that side. They're blue and red, so what I'm going to do is use the red bit that you can see and put that on the inside. I do a run of hot glue down the inside of the star. Pop it on the garland, and then I'm going to put some glue around the outside of this star. Another star on that side. So now you've got a 2-sided red star. It does have that gap in there, which I was thinking about filling, but I thought I like that because it looks quite rustic and very country-ish. So I decided to keep the little gaps as they are. Next, we want to put one of our pieces of wood on. Tie a knot where you want it to be. Move the knot down about there. You can measure this if you're feeling very efficient, but don't pull the knot too tight. And then thread your twine through the hole. What I find works is if you twist it as you thread it, it keeps it more firm so it goes through easier, and out it comes. And when you're getting close to the knot, a blob of hot glue, slide it down onto the knot, and then pull it to the side so you know there's a nice bit of glue attaching that to the garland. As you can see, I'm doing red, brown, so I've just done brown, time for a red. So take one of your shabby bow things, get the end you tied it with, and then tie it onto the garland. What you'll find is if you tie this nice and tight with 2 knots, it won't move about. You don't need to glue it, but if you want to be extra careful, give it a blob of glue, it'll be fine. Now I'm going to go for some Christmas trees. So you can see the method. A line of glue down there. Now you can use anything you like for this. You don't have to use this sort of thing. You can cut out cardboard shapes. You can use pine cones. A bit further down. We need another piece of wood next. Keeping the orders a little bit difficult. I find anyway, I keep getting jumbled up. I'm going to put the wrong thing on. But if you did, don't worry, because probably nobody will notice when it's on the tree. So far, I don't think I've got it wrong, but I may have. Any of you who are eagle-eyed may spot something in the future. This is my garland and I absolutely love it. It really does embody the whole country look of Christmas decorations that were made on a budget from bits and pieces they had around the house. I think that is going to look fabulous. Right, let's get on with project number 2 because I really can't wait to get decorating this Christmas tree. For this craft, I'm going to use a stick. It's about 4 inches long. I'm also going to use some fabric strips. This is great if you've got some fabric strips lying around. I've got these lovely red and white strips off a little girl's dress from a charity shop. There were big holes and stains, but I cut off all the good, which is just the sort of thing that people in a country cottage would have done to get their fabric to make rag decorations. So it fits perfectly with the theme. So I've got lots of those. I've got this little rag I tied into a bow. That was off a men's shirt. And I've got this lining from a dress. Tear it once to see what angle it tears at, because this nylon never seems to tear at the right angle if you just cut straight in. And I'm going to cut that, about 1.5 inches wide, because it's not very substantial. And then tear that magical noise. Now we take our stick and tie a piece of fabric using a knot onto the bottom of the stick, but not quite the bottom. Leave a nice little gap as a trunk. Pull it nice and tight. Chop it off. And then for the first one, I always like to pull it up a little bit. Little blob of glue like that. And then push it down onto the glue to hold it in place. And then you tie on alternate fabrics. When you put the top piece in place, stick a bit of glue on, leave a little bit of space for your bow on the top. Now, if you want something really crazy, you could leave it like that, but I'm going to shape this into a bit of a tree. So get everything where it should be on the one side. And then trim it into a tree shape and do the same on the other side. These little ends can be a bit unruly, so you've got to be firm with them. Show them who's boss. Now I'm going to glue my bow on the top. And then because the theme of this tree is reds, I'm going to use my red twine and make a hanging loop. Turn the tree over, run a glue, glue it into place. If you're just making one decoration, then you're finished, but if like me you're doing a whole tree, you will need more. So here are more that I've made. There's a brown one with a little heart on the top, and I've used a little bit of the hem off a shirt that I tore as a hanger. Here's another brown one. As you can see, they're all rather different, but that's part of the charm. That's my excuse and I'm sticking to it. There's a brown one with a bit of holly on the top. I tried one with a red berry on the top. Not sure about that berry, but it'll do. And I got one with a heart-shaped button on. And not to forget this little chap. So here I've got 7 very country looking Christmas trees to hang on my Christmas tree. Oh, I'm so excited. Let's get on with the next craft right away. For this next craft, I've got this bell. It's nothing exciting, it's plastic, it's off a decoration. The first thing I'm going to do is add a hanger. I've got some twine, but I'm not using the thick twine. This is all I've got left, so I'm hoping I can get to the end using this twine. And I've got 2 black wooden beads. I'm going to poke this end of the twine through the top of the bell and down. And this end, I'll need to snip that off because it's a bit frayed, and poke that in the other side. So I think that is about the length I want for the hanger. So I put my fingers up inside, pinch where it comes to the top. Oh, sorry, it's a bit clattery. And tie a knot there. Like that. And now when I put it up, it stays there with some of this twine hanging at the bottom. Now I get my beads, thread them on the twine. Easier said than done. Twine is terrible for unwinding. Now I want these, they're going to be the bells or the clappers. So make sure you've got your hanger pulled up tight. And then check what length you want them to be. I want them to just stick out a little bit. So about there. So marking that with a little pinch. Tie a knot. And I'm going to make the next one a little bit shorter to add a bit of interest. You can try all different ways because one of the charms with country style is that it hasn't all got to be matching. If anything, having different lengths and sizes and colours just adds to that charm. Now I'm going to cut off the ends, about there. Slide them up and put a blob of glue on. Just to be doubly sure I'm not going to lose the beads. And then fray the ends of your twine. Or you can cut it off straight if you want to with the bead, but I like it frayed a little bit. Again, I'm trying to make this look quite rustic. That just doesn't look very country style, does it? But don't worry, I've got a plan. This is where this comes into play. I'm going to put some glue over the top, some hot glue over the top of this little sticky out bit. Pop that on. Make sure the top is covered, like that. And then when the glue has cooled, make sure this is pulled up thoroughly. You don't want it drooping. And start winding around your bell. You can do this with a thinner twine. The thinner you use, the longer it takes, but a variety of thicknesses of twine on different bells would look lovely. Got to the end and I got this much left. I just made it. Now this next stage is optional. I'll take my finger protectors off. I love doing this, mainly because of the smell, but it's still fun anyway. There are lots of, can you see how tatty that looks? What you can do, be very careful over the top, and it just burns off the little sticky out ends. But I have to say, you probably need to be wearing safety glasses, mask, have a bucket of water handy, or preferably do this standing outside the fire station. Yep, I'm out of gas, but I've made a little bit of a start on it, so it's looking better already. Now we just need to decorate it. I'm going to make a simple 2-loop bow. Check which way the hanger runs, which is that way. And then I think I'll put this one on the top there. I like that. And that way then I can also add a little bit of glue just to be doubly sure we don't lose our hanger inside the bell. Pop that on there. Chop off the bottoms. And we finally, I think we need to put something on there. I think I'll put that piece of orange slice on. Oh yes, I like that. So if you're making a tree like I am, then you'll need more than one bell. So let's have a look. We've got this one. And this one. And this one. I only had 3 bells, so 3 bells it is. I love these. Right, come on to the next craft. I'm so excited. For this craft, we're going to use a pine cone, some of this red ribbon, and we're going to make a hanger with this. This is a really quick and easy one. Tie a knot, snip the bottom off the knot, put some hot glue on the top of, or the bottom of really, isn't it, your pine cone, and pop that into the hot glue, and then a little bow. Surprise, surprise. Glue that into place on the front of the hanger, and there, that is so simple and a perfect country style tree decoration, because the farmer or whoever the person was living in the country could just pop into the woods, find some pine cones, pop a little bit of ribbon on, even perhaps some ribbon off an old dress of one of their children, so they didn't even have to buy fresh ribbon. But did I make any more? I don't know why I say that, because you know I did. They're all pretty similar. I've made that one with little red gingham check. I've made this one with stripes and another excuse to pop a button on. And then another 2 gingham bow ones. When I started making the little gingham ones, I loved them so much I thought I'll make a few of those. So I did. Right, next craft. For this craft, I'm going to use a curtain ring. And I'm going to use this buffalo check ribbon. Now, I ordered it thinking it was black. I'm pretty sure it's navy, but for the purpose of this tree, we're going to pretend it's black. I'm going to use some twine to make a hanger first. So fold it in half, put the loop through, put the tail through the loop, pull it tight, and a little blob of glue just to hold it in place, because it can slide around. If you're using a wooden curtain ring, it won't be so bad, but this is painted wood and it tends to be a bit slippy. And then we'll pick how long you want your hanger to be, tie a knot, and then snip the ends, not too close. Now take off some ribbon. It doesn't matter if you go too short, just join it as you're going along. Then wind your ribbon all the way around your curtain ring. Well, it's raining again. I don't know if you can hear the rain. Very noisy this evening. Perfect weather to be tucked away in a very warm house crafting, rather than being outdoors. Ooh. So now we've got a curtain ring. Doesn't look terribly exciting, but we're going to jazz it up a bit. Tie a knot in the bottom of a piece of twine, chop the end off, pop some glue on it, and then push it onto the top of the bell. If you tie this on, the bell won't hang nicely. Then poke it through the hoop. Decide how long you want it to be and tie a knot. Put a knot in the other end. Trim it off. You can tie these on. It's not a problem. It's just I like the way they sit better if you glue the end of a knot. Pop it in there. And then glue a little bow to hide where the hanger's attached and to add a little bit of interest. And then I'm going to glue a little Christmas tree onto the bow, just to add even more interest. You've got yourself a tree hanger. But you know I haven't just made the one. I made this one with red gingham and a stripy ribbon and a little reindeer and smaller bells. I've got this one, which is a torn strip of gingham with a little shabby bow on the top and some twine as a hanger and a little group of bells. This one I covered in red twine, so I hope you're getting some ideas by me showing you all the different alternatives. I didn't want to make them all the same on 2 counts. One, I think, being the country style, they would have made to amends and wouldn't have enough to make identical decorations. 2, I think the family would have joined in and made their own personality decorations, so they'd all been slightly different. And 3, they would have done make to amends. What they had is what they worked with. And finally, I've got this one. I used some burlap and I really frayed the edges. Whoops, there's bits still coming off it. Wrapped it around a little bit of a strip of gingham with some danglies. You can see there, this was the first one I made. I tied the bells on and it doesn't sit right. Ah, it's round that side. I got it backwards. I was thinking, where's my bow gone? There's my bow. So I hope you've got some ideas there. Let's get on to that next project. Don't forget, wait till the end because we're going to decorate our tree in the country style. For this project, I've traced a heart shape onto a piece of cardboard, which I'm now going to cut out. Be careful when you're cutting this out because you don't really want to bend the cardboard. It's very difficult to cut into little dips without bending it. I keep cutting the waste off as I go. I've got this piece of music, woodland song, solo for the pianoforte. Coat your cardboard with some Mod Podge, not too much because you don't want your paper to ruffle up, but if it does ruffle up, it's not the end of the world. I like this piece of music here, so I'm going to turn that over, check what level it's at, right down here, and I'm going to pop this heart on there, and hopefully I'll have some of the nice, exciting bit of music, and then cut around it. I'm going to sand off the paper edges. They just look a bit neater. Now this is much easier when the glue is dry. I'm rushing, so it isn't really dry enough to do this. Now I'm going to use my new twine. I've been on hold waiting for this twine to arrive. It arrived about an hour ago, so now I can get stuck into crafting again. Go around the outside with a little piece of twine. It doesn't need to be very thick, just the thickness of the cardboard. And it is difficult to not put too much glue on. Try your best not to get glue over the front of your heart. If you do get it on again, it doesn't matter. It's different if you're going to sell them. You have to keep the quality up. But if you're just going to be keeping them for yourself, then it's not so important. I've got this wooden mousse shape. I got it from a street market in France. I know. It's amazing what you find in these street markets. So I'm going to pop a mousse on there. I don't know why I'm going to pop a mousse on there, but I am. I just fancy the look on it. So now I'm going to make a hanger. Now you can finish the back off if you want to. I haven't been finishing the backs off because they won't be seen. Pop on my string, a little more hot glue, and then a piece of masking tape. I am going to put a little bit of ink in around the outside of this because I think it'll just give it a nice aged look. Know what you think. Let me know, would you have done this or would you have left it as it is? So that is one of my hearts. And surprise, surprise, there are more. I've got this one that I made with like a deep red mousse on and some red twine. I got this one, I'm not sure about it. This was made from the hem of a little girl's dress that I tore into a strip and put around there. I think it's a bit overly glued as well, but I think from a distance it'll look fine. I've got this one, which is a piece of fabric, hot glue everywhere, and a little medallion of lace there. I've got this one, which I covered in burlap, and then I used this bias binding with a very pretty edge on, glued on a tree, glued on a bow, and a red twine hanger. On this one, I thought I'll use a musical note, some green twine, and 2 beads. I thought that'd give it a little bit of extra interest. I've got this one, which was some glittered sheet out of a book, and I got a button, a little bit of burlap, and some red twine, and lots of hot glue, spaghetti everywhere. And I got this one, which I made with a little piece of brown gingham. This was out of a tub of pot puree, a little bow, and the edge is done in just a natural coloured twine. Right, that's another craft done out of the way. These are so quick and easy and so much fun. I think if you do these, you're really going to enjoy yourself. Right, on to the next craft. For this craft, we're going to need a pool ball and some twine. This is a 2mm twine. I'm going to run some twine down a line of glue, then make a hanging loop and pop some glue around where this stops being attached, if you see what I mean, where it comes away from the bowl. Make my loop and then I'm going to go around from that point. I find this top very fiddly to do. I can't do it when I've got my finger protectors on, so I just give it a couple of seconds for the glue to cool before I get in there with my fingers, and that way I don't burn myself. Well, I don't burn myself as much. And now I'm going to cover over the top of this piece here, just anchors it in place, and go right the way around and cover right to the bottom of the bauble, which I absolutely love doing. One of my favourite things, but you can make this quicker by using a thicker twine. I don't know how thick you could go on your twine. I would have thought at least 4mm if you really are impatient and you want to get it done. Maybe 6mm, but I wouldn't push it much past that because I don't think you'd get smooth edges. I think it'd be a bit lumpy and bumpy, but if you want a lumpy and bumpy bauble, then fine. Now that I've finished the bauble, I'm cutting this piece of ribbon in half because I want just a narrow ribbon. And I'm going to glue this onto the top, around the bottom and back up to the top. Yes, I have got a blob of very hot glue on my hand. Ouch! And now I'm going to do the same, coming round the other way. It isn't the ideal to cut a ribbon in half, but this is quite a robust ribbon, so it's coping very well. And I don't mind it fraying a bit because, yep, you know, country style, that sort of thing really doesn't matter. And now I'm just going to pick 4 little buttons and put them in the middle there, ideally red. I think I can get away with that size. You can't put too big because it'll, if I show you there, that really doesn't work because the bauble is rounded. And I'm going to finish this off with a bow. I know I was very good last week. I didn't use any bows on my candy cane tree because they really didn't fit the style. But this week I can go bonkers with bows, which I'm going to do. And then glue the bow to the top of the bauble. I didn't check which way was the front. That way is going to be the front when it's hanging. So I'm going to stick it around there to move the glue around like that. There we go. That'll be fine. Improvisation, that's what crafting's all about. But oh no, one bauble isn't enough for a big tree. Aha, you know what's coming. I've got this one I made with a little bit of burlap and ribbon and then a little bit of holly and berries on. This one I just put a piece of lace all around the outside there. This one I used lace medallion and then I got this little piece of tatty lace and I just loved the look on that. I thought that looked really country style. And I got this one. I wound a few. Why is that sticky out bit there? Let's chop that off. That's annoying me. And there. Right, so back to it. I've put some green, I don't know if it's a lace, it's like a shaped ribbon all the way around and some little berries on the front. This one I simply put the medallion on and nothing else. And then this was another simple one. Just a ribbon around the middle with a bow on the front. Oh, I just love these. I'm so enjoying this country style. What are you thinking of it so far? Are you enjoying it? I hope so. Right, come on, let's get on with the next craft. For this country style, if you're going to make more than one of these, which I may have done, then cut yourself out one and then you can use that as a template to make the rest. I'm going to use my straight edge and cut out the shape. Now I'm going to take a piece of wet fabric and wet the top layer of this cardboard. Make sure if you're doing this, it is a corrugated cardboard. You can see on the side there, you'll see the wiggles, so you know it's corrugated. While that's soaking in, it doesn't take long. I'll show you this. I've got a little piece of cinnamon stick. I'll be using that, but let's see if this is ready because we're going to peel the top layer off. It's a bit fiddly on the edges. You don't want to pick up this corrugated layer. That's coming off nicely. You can see you don't have to leave it for long. Sometimes you've got to run over it once more just to make sure you get all the little bits off. While that's drying, take your little piece of cinnamon stick. You could use a little bit of twig if you haven't got cinnamon sticks. Put some glue on. And it's nice and easy to find the centre of the tree. You just follow the top line of corrugation down, and that's the centre. Now, in the ideal world, you would now let the cardboard dry, but I'm not going to. And I've got this Versa Magic, and it's in green, because I like the subtlety of this. I want this to have some green stripes on it, but I don't want a really vibrant green. So I just run along, and it's only picking up where the fat bits of the corrugation comes. If you want to do it all, you can. You can paint this. You can even paint in the grooves and leave the sticky out bits. It's the natural colour. And now I'm going to stick a simple decoration on. I got this, I'm not sure what it's off. I always keep lots of little bits and pieces I find around the place. So I'm going to glue this central on the tree. There's already a lot of glue on it. Put a bit more and put it there. I'm going to make a little twine bow for the top of my tree, which I think suits it perfectly. This is quite a primitive country style, this. On it goes. Turn over my tree and then make a hanger from more green twine. And there we have a very simple to make, but very effective country style tree. Do you think I've made more than one? Correct, I have. I've got this one, which is very simple. It's just a little bit of a shabby looking bow with lots of bits fraying off it, which I loved. I want a baker's twine loop on the top. I've got this one, which has got an angel on the top and a little piece of orange slice. And I also put a little piece of cinnamon stick along the bottom with a twine hanger. This one with a star on the top, some baker's twine, and I put some buttons on. A good excuse to use some buttons, and also those plain looking ones that are nothing special. Look at all this hot glue spaghetti. I made this one with a spotty button and a piece of gingham along the bottom. I've got this one with some acorns and a little bit of foliage. And I've got this one with another tatty bow and 2 Christmas trees on the Christmas tree. I may have mentioned this before, but I'm really enjoying doing these crafts. Right, on with the next craft. Oh, well, I'm going to have to talk you through this one. I forgot to turn my camera on. I've been chatting away to you and there was nobody there. So I took my wood round and I cut out this little piece of a Santa face, used some Pritt stick, this one's Scotch glue stick, glued it on. Then I used some baker's twine to make a hanger. I made a little bow with, we all know it's navy and white, but we're pretending it's black and white. And I put a little button on. It's always good to have an excuse to use a button. So that was a very quick craft to show you because you missed all the interesting bits. But let's have a look at other ones I made too, for some other ideas. They're all on roughly the same theme because I used the same decoupage sheet for all of them. So I've got some children here singing and behind I put a little bit of music. And then I used some ink to darken the edges to age it a bit. I've got this Santa, look at that. Isn't that lovely? Got his tree, oops, I'm a bit high. Got his tree and I'm not quite sure what this is. I think it may be a kite, possibly. No idea, but he's got lots of toys. And then I've got this one with Santa leaning in and showing you a book of a child smiling and a child crying. Not sure why. This one, because Santa is playing the violin, that's not supposed to be on there. Whoops. There we go, got rid of that. Santa playing a violin, so I put some sheet music behind. It's very simple to do. And another one with just the decoupage on and no bow. And another one with just some decoupage on with no bow. You can put a bow on if you want to. I thought this one looked really plain, so it needed something. But I think these are perfectly fine without any bows. I know, it's not very often you hear me say that. So there we go, more crafts. We're very near the end now. Don't forget to hang around and you'll see me decorating the tree. It's topper time, and I remember to turn the camera on this time. Right, I've got this ribbon burlap, or burlap ribbon. Take my tag off. I got this from Watt. I don't know if you have Watt in other countries. Open these. I love this. Free twine. Who doesn't love free twine? Now this one has got like a red glittery look to it. And this one's got a green. Now I'm not keen on the glitter look for the country style, but this is the only... Look at that, you can see my paintbrush with my glue on. put it out of the way. I've got something wet wrapped around it so that it doesn't dry out until the end of the video. Anyway, back to my bow. So I'm going to use this glittery because I haven't got any plain. I don't want anything too extravagant. I know, very strange for me. So I'm going to decide how big I want my bow to be. And this is going to be scrunched up. And it's still got integrity enough to hold itself. But do you think that's a bit wide? I think so. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. Come over there, like that. I think that's probably a more sensible size. And then measure exactly the same with my red one. Scrunch it up. Look at that already. And then use a pipe cleaner. And tie it as tightly as you can manage. Scrunch it up. Make sure it's central. Pop the pipe cleaner into place. This is quite strenuous on the hands because this burlap is so stiff. And then twist. And I'm going to be joining those together like that. So I'm going to get a bigger pipe cleaner because the little ones won't go around it. And then join the one on top of the other. Now we're going to need some tails. Decide how long you want them to be. And then I'm going to cut a green one a little bit shorter. Oh, that may have the decision made for me because I haven't got a lot. Run out. Yep, that's going to be that size. Fold it in half. Fold this one in half. I've got glitter everywhere. Scrunch it up and fix it with another pipe cleaner. I'm going to wrap this pipe cleaner around the other pipe cleaner. So I put the shorter one on the front. And then tighten it. Now snip my ends off again. Bring the brown pipe cleaner around and tighten it. Check the length. I'm going to chop this really tiny curl bit off the bottom of there. I think I'm okay lengthwise. There. Still a bit curly, but not as bad as it was. And then check these for length. And because of my very poor measuring, I need to take a little bit off the bottom of that one too. Again, I'm not going to dovetail these because I don't want dovetails on this. I want it to look more primitive. And before I actually assemble my tree, I am going to have to get my iron out. I know, I don't like doing it. And flatten that off because it's too curly where it's from the end of the roll. Now I'm going to tuck any ends that are poking out of sight. I'm going to use some of this plain burlap to go over the front of the bow. Poke it into place. Come right over the top. Then glue it round to the bottom, as far round as you can go. Like that. Now we need some embellishments on this bow. So to look in my bag of bells. Got this big chunky one. If I had two, I think that would look lovely, but just being the one, I don't think it's going to look good when it's just one. Got 3 of these. Oh, I think that would be better. Oh, yes. Isn't that going to look wonderful? Definitely, this is the right decision. Make that one a bit longer than the other 2. And I've got a nice little dangle of bells. And glue this up under the bow there. So now I've got a few alternatives for the front of this. I'll show you what I've got. Got this reindeer. I can put that on there. The heart. I think the heart's going to win. I've got this with the seashell on. I'd take the seashell off, but what would that look like? Oh, that's quite nice. And I've got a red heart. So it's that heart or that heart. I think that one goes better. So I'm going to glue this into place. It's going to be quite a challenge because it's quite a chunky heart. I'm going to pop a little bit of foliage around it too, I think. right, the time has come. I'm going to go iron the ends of this now. If I can find them, it's curled right up there. I'll be ironing this, and then we're going to start assembling our country style tree, and I am so excited about that. Right, no time to chat, let's get on with it. So now it's time to put our tree topper on. I've ironed these little tails and they're a bit straighter, but they don't want to stay straight. And on the back there, through the loop that we've made, I put a nice brown pipe cleaner so it matches the colour scheme a little. I'm just going to bend the top of this over because this is quite a heavy topper. Surprising how heavy burlap is. That's quite central. I'm going to lower the camera now because we don't need to see the topper. We want to see more of the tree as I decorate. Now, let's try something else on the tree. Turn my camera up a bit because it was chopping my head off. Right, so I'm going to put the bells on now because they're quite big and make a bit of a statement. So I want them to be neatly and orderly spread through the tree while still not looking too uniform. So now let's tackle our selection of hearts. Next, the little Christmas trees. As you can see, with the amount we've made, this is a 6-foot tree and there is more than ample to do the front of a 6-foot tree. If you wanted to do the back as well and you want it to look very full, I'd double up the amount of decorations. I think we do the baubles next, why not? I just found some more hearts. Whoops, we better get those on. Now for our rag trees. Already I'm thinking, even if you had to decorate right the way around this tree, as long as you don't want it overstuffed, then I think we've made enough decorations. I'm starting to get a bit tight for space. And finally, our pine cones. Well, I love this tree. That is about the amount I like to see on a tree. I like it pretty well stuffed. Not overly stuffed unless it's in certain styles. Some styles they just scream out, put more on, put more on. But I love this. Should we turn the lights on? So this is it with static lights. Should we try twinkling as well? I do love a twinkly light sometimes. And that's it twinkling, isn't it gorgeous? I absolutely adore this country style. I wasn't sure how it was going to work out when I started, but I'm glad I made that journey. It's always the same with any craft. If you're not sure, give it a try. You'll be amazed at what you can come up with. I've made 1 or 2 country things, but I never thought I could make all these country things for one tree.
Jingle bells ringing in my ear. Jingle bell, a sound that's oh so dear. Frosty the snowman is all around town. Watch out for reindeers are falling down. We stay up waiting for Santa tonight. He climbs down the chimney at the speed of light, while we're dancing around the Christmas tree, hugging and kissing just you and me. Carolers are singing outside our door, lovely songs we all heard before, as they walk from house to house to wish us all a Merry Christmas Day.
Hello everyone, I'm Caroline, and today I'm going to do something I haven't done before. I'm going to make lots of candy cane themed decorations and then decorate my Christmas tree in a candy cane theme. So we're going to have first 10 candy cane ideas for Christmas decorations, and then at the end we'll decorate the tree. Apologies for a bit of a grainy film. I am trying to get my camera sorted. At the moment I'm having no luck, but I will keep working on it and eventually I'll crack it. Right, no time to chat. Let's get on with the crafting. For this first craft, I'm going to show you my new technical gizmo. Look at this. It's for cutting foam or polystyrene, and I haven't plugged it in yet because I want to show you just how quickly it heats up. So I'm plugging it in now. I've got this little wooden, I don't know, it's a coaster thing that I keep because I don't want to burn my desktop. And you'll also need to hand. You can use kitchen roll, I'm using toilet paper, but make sure it's really thick because you'll burn your fingers. This is for cleaning the end. If you don't clean it, it gets really gunked up very quickly and then the heat doesn't get through. Now, there is an on-off switch on here, but I just use it on the plug. You can see, hopefully, that's already starting to smoke. And I've drawn a circle here. This is 11 centimetres diameter, and the reason is that's the diameter of furniture finishing wax tins. So I use that to draw around. And now if you want to cut this, the trick is go slowly. You take some practice. Can you see how quickly that cuts? And also, if it starts to get a little bit slow, slow down a little bit because it's not making enough heat. So that's really slowing down now, and you can see it's because it's covered in gunk. So make sure this is very thick. Heat-proof gloves would be a good idea at this point. I don't want anybody burning themselves, so be sure you've got a thick enough wood. Make sure your room is well ventilated. You may need to wear a mask for this. And put it away very safely where you're not going to accidentally touch it, or children or pets, because this is absolutely boiling hot. So as you can see, because I was trying... So as you can see, mine isn't the perfect circle. You will probably do a much better job. But then again, you're used to me now. Now you need to find the centre of your little disc. So I traced a piece of paper, folded into 4, snipped the very small point off the end. I'm going to put that there. This is a cadmium red hue. Now, I don't think it's the reddest paint in the world, but it's the only one I had. I'd rather the deep red, but it'll do. Don't forget to always use a quality palette. This one is an Amazon box. Well, a bit of. A little blob of paint. Do that. You've got the centre. Now I'm just going to paint a spiral. You may be really good at this sort of thing and you'll get it very accurate. I'm not. But then again, when it's made into the whole item, you won't even notice if it's a little bit uneven or a little bit wonky. And for those of you who watch me a lot, you know most of my things are uneven or wonky. But they look lovely when they're finished. Remember, as I always say, the most important thing is to enjoy your crafting. Perfection can come later. Or maybe not at all. And then just paint yourself a spiral. Going right to the outside of your circle. And you'll need to put plenty of paint on this. Another option for this is you can, if you've got a cutting machine, cut yourself a spiral, measure the right size and cut it out of vinyl. I'm not sure how well vinyl will stick to foam, so you may need to add some glue. I don't know. I've never done it. But just as an idea, if you've got one of those cutter machines, you may decide to try it. Now set that aside to dry. Get yourself a piece of dowel, as I've got here, and paint it. This bit is going to go up inside the lollipop, so you haven't got to worry about painting that, which gives you an end to hold it while you're painting it. I just used some acrylic paint, took 2 coats. And then you slip your dowel up into the lollipop. And as if by magic, here's one I made earlier. It's already nicely dry. The next thing to do is to get some cellophane. It's about 16 inches. And then I folded the 16-inch square of cellophane into 4 and then rounded the edges. Keep it folded in half. Pop your lollipop in. can use a piece of twine or a pipe cleaner. Pipe cleaner would probably be easier thinking about it. But cellophane doesn't like to stay put. It's very nasty to try tying it. Keeps trying to burst out of your knot. Snip the ends off. And this is optional. I'm just going to put a little piece of gingham ribbon around the bottom. Make yourself a little tulip bow. Pop it on the front. And that's our first candy cane craft. You can make this cellophane in different lengths. I've tried a few different lengths. I'm not sure which I prefer at the moment. We'll see when they're on the tree. I can't wait to see this on the Christmas tree. So let's get on with craft number 2. This is a nice, quick and easy craft. Cut a cardboard toilet roll in half. Get yourself a piece of paper. I'll measure this. It is about 8.5 by about 7. It hasn't got to be very accurate. Put your toilet paper tube in the middle. Roll it up. Pop on some sellotape. Scrunch the edges out with the pipe cleaner. Snip off the pipe cleaner. Poke those in a little bit and then floof out the ends to get them looking nice. And you've got yourself a candy cane sweet. I've got lots. I can't wait to see what these are going to look like. For this craft I'm going to take a pool noodle. This one hasn't got a hole in the end, but you can use one with a hole in the end. It won't make much difference. And then using your cutting tool, cut yourself a slice. If you look in the description below, there's a link there to all the things I use, or lots of things I use. And so you'll see the cutting tool in there if it's something you fancy getting. Measure your widest bit. About 1.5 centimetres. So I'm going to cut a generous 1.5 centimetres and then trim it. Measure yourself a strip of sheet foam. I put on 3 dots. Line up your dots. Cut your strip. And then glue this to your disc, deciding which is the front because that's the side you want to keep the foam the most level. Then just glue it into place. Make sure you turn any grotty bits with writing on the inside or towards the end. It's not going to get used. Oh, look at that. I can just cut off that mark. That was close. You can very accurately cut this, but I find that I can't cut very accurately on one of those pool noodles, so it's easier for me to trim it to the size of the pool noodle afterwards like that. Take the back side of the pool noodle and put that on your white foam board and then cut around. When you're cutting around foam board like this, make sure you keep your scissors at least level or pointing outwards. If you point inwards, then you'll end up seeing some of the underneath, if you see what I mean. Glue this onto the glitter piece of white foam board, and because this is the front, I like to cut it out roughly and then cut it carefully afterwards. Now get your red, draw a circle around your red. I like to use a pinking shears for the next bit, but you can just use a straight scissors, it'll be fine, and cut on the inside of that line. But you've got a nice circle. Fold it in half, crease it just gently, cut it in half again, and in half again. Do that with all the pieces because if you're making a few of these, you might as well cut this whole piece up. Space them out the way you want them to be, and then glue them into place. Work out how much cellophane you're going to need to go right around and a bit of an overlap. And then wrap over the cellophane. I use sellotape for this to hold it down. It's the best method. I'm going to use a pipe cleaner for these. Ruffle the edges in. Twist them, tie with a pipe cleaner. Pull it round to the back, twist it, and always remember to pull while you twist. And then play around and experiment with how many stripes you want, the size of the wrapper. As you can see, I have. And I've got all these. For our next candy cane themed Christmas decoration, we're going to use another expensive palette and some white acrylic and a pool ball. These, in the UK anyway, are marked with a CE, so pop a hole through the CE bit because that's the least important bit, and pop a skewer in, temporarily. I've got this mandala making blobber thing, and I'm going to use this to paint spots on the ball. Now you can use smaller spots if you want to. I like being flamboyant with my spots, so I'm making huge spots, and I'm also putting loads of paint on, so you're getting that sort of splutty effect. I love it. I suppose you could stick white stickers on, something like that. This is the effect I like. You could even use a Posca pen, I suppose. Anything that's white, and we'll draw on plastic. So when you've done the bottom, it's difficult to do it without it wobbling a little bit, even though it's on a skewer. So if you put your finger somewhere you know is safe, just to give the ball a little bit more firmness. And there we go, we got a spotty bauble. Now you need to dry this. When it is dry, if you've got any little marks on, they'll scratch off really easily. And if you've got a really jagged looking circle, you see I've got a few marks here because I dropped this one when I was trying to put it up to dry, and I grabbed it and now I just covered it in white paint. But how do we hang this from a tree? Well, I got a little tub. Whenever I take the end off a bauble, I keep all the little ends, and I've got these silver bauble ends. So find the hole, a blob of hot glue, pop the end on, and you've got yourself a spotty bauble. I love these, they're so easy to make and they are such fun, especially with the big chunky spots. Don't forget to hang on because at the end I'm going to decorate the whole Christmas tree with the candy cane theme. For this craft I cut myself 3 pieces at 50 centimeters long of this soft twist plant tie. It's really flexible, which is part of the plan. So now for one of my favourite bits, we're going to cover this with twine. I glue the ends together first because they don't like sticking together. They keep wandering off when you've got 3 of them like that. There we go. But to make this faster, I've got 2 balls of twine. You can cover this in ribbon, you can cover it in fabric. I'm going for twine. Drop those onto the floor, and now it'll be much easier. Tie a knot in the twine rather loosely and pop that onto the top, and that covers the top nicely. It's very difficult to cover something so small otherwise. I'm just going to run those 2 pieces of twine down there, no need to cut them. And now it's the long job, but very enjoyable if you like me, of wrapping this twine right the way around to the bottom. A run of hot glue just in one place, you don't have to go all the way around, and try not to twist your twines if you're using 2. Just makes it a neater job. But if it does happen, don't worry. It's different if you're doing these to sell, you have to take a lot more care, but if you're doing them for your own pleasure, then you can really savour the moment and just enjoy it. And can you see how much faster this is going because I'm using 2 pieces of twine at the same time? Well, it, I suppose, halves the time, doesn't it? I find the twine after a while gets really awkward to deal with, so I take off rather a lot of twine. I use so much of this, if I've got too much excess, it doesn't matter, it'll get used up. Cut it off, and you can always rejoin it anyway halfway through. Pop that end on the floor so that you can keep lifting it up and it'll untangle itself as you go in. And then the further along you go, you just roll it up more until it's in a spiral. It just keeps it out of the way for you, and I think really speeds things up. When you get down to the end, if you're like me, because of the little kinks and bends, you will have a little bit of unevenness. Just chop it off, and then carry on down until you've covered the whole thing completely. Straighten it up. Take some nice thick fluffy yarn or some ribbon, and then twist this white fluffy yarn right down to the bottom of the cane. You just need to glue occasionally, but I would advise you glue every 3 or 4 turns, because this is going to be twisted and you don't want any saggy bits appearing and flopping or anything like that, which I think could happen. This skewer is determined to be famous. It keeps rolling into shot. So now you take what you just made, take your finger protectors off, and I've got this little bit of a thin curtain pole, I think it was. No, it's too thin for a curtain pole. It's a bit of dowel in. And then wrap your candy caney springy thing around your piece of dowel. Like that. Take it off and look at that. That is such fun. It's a candy cane spring or sproing, and I can't wait to put that on the tree. Don't forget, hang on in there. We've got the full tree build at the end of the video. For this candy cane craft, we're going to use another one of these. I won't show you how to make them again because you saw that in an earlier project. For the stick, I'm going to take a skewer and cover it in this paper. Now it is very fiddly because this is shiny paper. If you can get some rougher texture, definitely not a glossy one, it will be much easier to use. Find your little gap. I use the nozzle of the hot gun to make a start, and then poke the stick up inside, like that. I'm leaving plenty of length on this because I want to slot it into the tree. I'm trying different lengths again. This is all quite experimental for me because I've never decorated a whole tree with my own decorations before, so I'm trying lots of different ways. Now we need to cover that. Now I'm just going to put a bow on it. Nice, easy little 2-loop bow. Pop it on the front. And now we've got a very long pick in the candy cane colour theme. Now this craft is really simple. I'm sure you can do this. Now I've seen candy canes for sale in shops and they're quite reasonably priced, the plastic ones, but that adds up if you need a lot. So I've got these coloured candy cane pipe cleaners. Just going to put a little bit of a twist in the top. And then wind them around each other fairly loosely. You can see I'm not doing many winds at all. Just like that, right down to the bottom, and then twist the bottom. And once you've done that, bend the top. And if you see there, it's pulling apart a bit, so just put an extra bit of twist in. This can all be fixed. And get a nice curve. And there we go. A candy cane for the tree. That was really quick, really easy, and another thing that you can make yourself. And children can help you make these to go on the tree. It's a bit wonky there. You can get children to help you make these to go on the tree, and they're going to love having their own decorations on your tree looking as fabulous as this tree is going to look. For this craft, you'll need one of these tubes. I think this came from cling film or saran wrap, I'm not sure. And a Christmas bauble and more candy cane stripe paper. You can even print this off. I think you can get a printable with it, or if you're a dab hand at the computer, you can make your own. Look how old and tatty this is. The bottom fell out. Turns out it's just got a lump of concrete in there. This is about 25 years old. It still works, just about. But the modern ones aren't as heavy, so I'd rather use this one. The more observant among you will notice I just got a longer piece of paper. I don't know what I was thinking of. I picked the wrong piece up. So it hasn't grown magically. I went and got the different piece. Right, we just sellotape this on. It's just like wrapping a tube if it was a Christmas gift. Like that. Roll it up on the desk. It's nice and tight. And more sellotape. Poke the ends of the paper in. Get your bauble and pull the end off. Don't forget to keep these, they do come in useful as you saw earlier on with the Spotty baubles. Put some glue just on the inside edge of your pole and then take the pointy end of your bauble and pop it in. How easy was that? And we've got a North Pole. I think they're going to look great on the tree. They're really big and flamboyant, really over the top. I think they're going to be very interesting to see. For this craft, you'll need some stiff wire. I'll show you, it's on this big roll like this. You can pick these up on sale at the end of the summer, so it's a great way to get cheap wire. And then we do want to cover this piece of wire with this fluffy yarn. A blob of glue, tie a knot, pop the knot on the end, and then start winding. And I like to put a little blob of glue between 1/2 inch and 1 inch, probably about just over 1/2 inch apart, just so that these bits of yarn won't slide, because it's quite a slippery yarn on quite a slippery wire. And this is like the last one we did. It will get in your way, so curl it up out of the way. I love working with this chunky snowy yarn. I have heard you can get fatter than this, which I may try getting for next Christmas. I think it will be faster to work with. This is much faster than covering things with twine because it's fuzzy, so you get less gaps. I'm going to leave some at the end of this. Make another 2 of these. Now get a skewer, put 3 of these together, use a pipe cleaner and attach them as one hole, if you see what I mean. You've got just one leg coming down then instead of 4. Now I'm going to put a lot of glue in there because we're going to come around this with the yarn. I don't know if you can hear, I'm filming this on the 6th of November and there are people still setting fireworks off. I've got a very pretty display going on outside my window. You don't need to go right to the bottom with this, you're just trying to cover any part that could be sticking out. You can cover down to the bottom if you want to, there's not a problem, but if you don't want to, if you've had enough of winding at this stage, then you can just finish off then when you're past all the wires. And that yarn will help hold the wires in place too, because they are going to take not a lot of movement, but they do have to put up with a little bit of movement. So now I'm going to unravel these. And I've got these 3 baubles, and guess what I'm going to do with these baubles? Pull the ends off. Another 3 hangers for my bauble hanger collection. So now I just pop a blob of glue on the end. And then pop a bauble on the end, like that. And do the same with the other ends. Get yourself the inside of a toilet roll, pop it down low, and then wrap, one wire, sorry it's a bit clattery, this one wire around, and do the same with the other 2. And then you can just pull them out a little bit. Look at that. Now I absolutely love that. Look at that for crazy. We're getting closer and closer to seeing my tree fully decorated. For this craft you'll need a bit of an old cardboard box or new cardboard box if you've got them hanging around the place. And we're going to cut out the shape of a candy cane. So I've cut this one out ready, but I want to show you exactly what I did because cardboard is notoriously easy to bend and this wouldn't have any strength or integrity at all if you just use one sheet of cardboard. So as long as you're going to be very careful, you'll get away with it, but I always like to be doubly sure. So when you're putting down a pattern, or if you're drawing freehand, you can see there are these lines down here. It's the corrugation. So you want to make one with the lines lying that way, and you want to make one with the lines lying that way. And I'll show you on this. You can see on this half, I've glued 2 together, the lines are running that way. And on this piece, the lines are running that way. And what that means is it's much more difficult to bend. Use this. So simple. So when you cut out your 2 candy cane shapes, stick them together, and now we need to cover them. Now this is going to be really easy, and I love the look on this effect. Glue one side of your candy cane, just in a few places. We just need it to hold still, that's all. Pop it down there. I always like to be very frugal with my cutting. I don't like to waste big chunks of fabric. And then cut roughly around it. Now I'm going to use the piece of fabric we cut off to go over the top. We're not going to sew it in place, we're going to glue it in place, and I love this. It's so easy and such fun, and I just love the effect. Don't know why, but it just really appeals to me. Put a layer of glue, don't do too much at a time or your glue will go cold. A layer of glue around the very edge, and then push it into place. I'm going to use a lollipop stick. You can use a bone folder, that'll do just as good a job. Or even a bit of skewer. Or if you're stuck, just use your fingernail. Slowly work your way right the way around the candy cane. Making sure the fabric is flat on the top of the candy cane whenever you're doing this. You can do a bit more at a time when you're doing a straight bit. It's like me, you've got a lot of fabric hanging around. Start cutting some of it off at this point because you're going to get yourself in a terrible knot otherwise. You still don't need to trim very closely, we'll do that at the end. There we go, that's much easier to manage. Now very carefully, come up the middle and cut to almost where the fabric meets the cardboard, but not quite. Now you need to get right up inside. And a run of glue up in there. This is the most difficult bit. And get your lollipop stick and poke the fabric down. Come along the bottom. Now finish off this side. Now I don't know if hot glue when it's cold can damage your scissors, so I'm not going to use my best dressmaking scissors. I can use my new multi-purpose scissors. This one, being non-stick, is brilliant as well. If there's any warm hot glue left, it doesn't end up stuck to it. And then cut around fairly close to the cardboard. Out with some of this tulle lace. I'm going to cut it, about 10 centimetres wide. Ish. You haven't got to be accurate. I never have any luck tearing tulle, so I never tear it. It tends to go off at an angle no matter how hard I try. Because I know I haven't got enough length there, I'll cut off another 12 inches sort of strip. Making sure you're wearing a finger protector because the glue does come straight through. Press it in place and snip the end off. And now you're going to scrunch it up so that you can see it. If you leave it too loose, you won't be able to see the whiteness because it's quite transparent. And then come around your candy cane. And you can see I've run out. It's not a problem. Glue that into place. Snip the back. And then get my next piece. You can see I'd missed a little bit there that I can now see. So pop a little bit of glue in and then give it a bit of a squish down. I like to cross at the bottom then and do it sort of ending halfway. I just think it adds a little bit of interest. So that is an effect I just love. I think it's gorgeous. And now's the time. I am going to decorate my Christmas tree in a candy cane style and I really am so excited. So let's go turn my plain Christmas tree into a candy cane wonderland. Oh, I can't wait. I'm going to start using some red and white ribbon. If you've got like a candy cane stripe ribbon, it probably would look better. I'm not sure. This is what I'm using and I can't find my florist wire. So I'm going to use some little white pipe cleaners. That'll be fine. I'm going to drop my ribbons onto the floor, otherwise they'll tangle up. And I've got a pipe cleaner stuck in there. So first thing I'm going to do is leave a little bit of a tail and then make a loop, pinch the loop. Hoping this is focusing on me, and then fix it with a pipe cleaner. Now if you've got one of those trees with a gazillion little ends on them, I can't remember, points I think they call it, then you can tie this in with the tree, but mine doesn't have that many points, so I'm doing it this way. And then you can open up that, and we're going to attach this to the tree. Take another pipe cleaner, make sure you've got a nice little bit of slack, and then fix it into the tree about there. Another pipe cleaner, twist it into place, and then one final loop. So at the end of this loop we want another mini loop. So if we're going to come, say, to here, make sure you've got this extra room here. You don't want to put it tight. And then form your loop. You pinch it. Fix it with your pipe cleaner. And attach it to the tree. And then open out these loops. Take your scissors. And cut a dovetail end. And then fiddle around until you're happy with the way it looks. Dovetail these ends too. And now I'm going to do exactly the same thing on the other side. I'm going to turn my tree a little bit because I've realised that my centre isn't the same as your centre. There, that's better. And now I'm going to add a swag just coming down here. Sorry, I'm very aware I'm not looking at the camera. This isn't a setup I'm used to, so sorry if my eyes seem to be looking all over the place. I am trying to look at you. I'm a firm believer in using what you've got, so I'm using a different type of ribbon again to do a lower swag, and you can add as many or as few as you like. Because I'm going to be putting so many candy cane things on, I don't want to overdo this. Now you work your way right down to the bottom of the tree. I'm not going to take my time doing that now because we have so many other things to do. So now I'm going to deal with the topper. And for this I'm going to use this Santa hat. Stuff it with some tissue paper, not too tightly, mainly down the one side, if you see what I mean. And then I'm going to finish it off with some white just in case you see any of it. I don't want pink sticking through. This isn't a pink tree. Don't stuff it all the way to the end. And then fix it to the top of your tree. And then flop the bauble over at a jaunty angle. I do love a jaunty angle. Your tree may be visible from all around, so always bear that in mind. You'll need to obviously decorate the back, but I'm decorating just the front, so it doesn't matter if the back doesn't look brilliant. I'm going to use these that we made first. As you can see, they've been rolled around so they're nice and curly and springy. And poke them in wherever you fancy at the top to make it look a bit of a Christmas explosion. And I've got a few of these red glittery berry things, so I thought they look very nice on a red and white tree, so I'm going to add those to the topper. And then I've got my curly whirly things that we made. These are the ones with 3 pieces of padded wire in. Just making sure the top has got a nice tight curve on because we're going to hook these on that side. On that side. And one straight down the middle. I think it's time to add some lollipops. Those to the topper area. This is completely individual. You do whatever you fancy, whatever really makes you feel happy, and I feel happy with this so far. Now these bigger lollipops can go further down the tree because the bottom of the tree is a bit bigger. Yes, I like that. Fiddle around with them, it doesn't matter how long it takes, enjoy the process. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with these big candy canes, so let's have a look and see what works. my Spotty baubles. Now if you put a Spotty bauble on that, it sort of disappears. So what I'm going to do is make a cluster. So I'm going to take some wire, pop on one spotty one, one shiny one, one glittery one, and I think I'll put a matte one on as well. Seems I've got a few here. And then push them all to the middle of the wire, trim your wire, and then find a nice space. Make sure your spotty one's facing out, because I like my spotty ones, and wire them in. Now find somewhere convenient for your north poles. You may decide you want to wire more of this into place. I'm not wiring them in because I'm going to take all this off and change the whole theme of this tree for next week. Well, that's the plan. So I'm just popping things on, but if you're just going to be putting them on, be aware if you've got children or pets, they could possibly get knocked off as they're rushing past and bump into the tree. Now I'm going to add my giant candies. And finally, my candy canes. So this is my candy cane themed tree. I hope you like it. I absolutely love it. It's the look I was going for. I wanted lots and lots on this tree. I wanted quite an intense decoration. And also, because it's so intense, you can't even really notice that I've used different ribbons. So sometimes you can get away with things that you wouldn't normally just by changing the design of something, like adding extra things meant that the ribbon isn't the main feature. So I'm okay there. Now I'm going to turn the lights on. So there you've got permanent lighting. And there you've got twinkles. Not sure which I prefer. I quite like the twinkles. Normally I like it static. But I'm enjoying those twinkles on this particular tree. So let's have a look at some close-ups of my tree. 10 Christmas decorations from Scrap Denim. Hello everyone, I'm Caroline and today we're going to make some Christmas decorations. And I fancied making some denim ones to go on a white tree. I think the contrast would be lovely. So I went to the charity shop where they do 5 items for £1 because nobody loves these things anymore. Nobody wants to buy them. So I bought them. I got a dress. As you can see, I've already started cutting into these. And a couple of pairs of jeans. So these are all bits and pieces. But we're going to take these bits and pieces that don't look much and they're jeans with holes in, zips not working, falling apart and make them into something really lovely for Christmas. So, no time for chatting, let's get on with crafting. For this denim craft, I cut myself out a petal shape. You can cut out any sort of petal you like. You can do a poinsettia, you can do something like this, which looks a little bit more like a leaf, but I like it. Even round ones. I've made myself a card template, drawn around it on the piece of denim and now cut it out. You can use a pinking shears if you want frilly edges on these. I'm using straight because I am going to edge this with something else. I got this lovely pipe cleaner here. It's cute, isn't it? Stripey one. So I'm going to edge this leaf with the pipe cleaner. So I'm just going to fold it in half. So I've got a nice point for the top. Otherwise it's very difficult to bend it when you're gluing it. Then glue it into place. Now I'm going to bend these little pieces of pipe cleaner upwards, like that. Then I'm going to add some glue to the bottom there and on the one side of this, like that, just because I don't want too much glue on. And then bring that around and put a clip on it. And do that with 5 petals in total. I figured out a quicker way of doing this. If you twist your little pieces of pipe cleaner, squash them into place, they'll help you hold the piece of denim in place. And then you can pop a little bit of hot glue front and back. When you're happy with it, pop a clip on it. When they've cooled down, pop the little clip off the end, chop the sticky out bit off. Do that on all 6. Now we want to glue them 3 together at a time with the points joining like that. So how I do it is run some hot glue, quite a thick bit down there, and then stick these on either side. Oh, that's hot. Like that. Don't forget to hold them in place until the hot glue cools, otherwise they'll just ping off. And then a little blob of hot glue halfway up each petal, just to hold the flower together a bit better. Then do the same for the bottom half. Run of hot glue down the middle, one to the one side, one to the other side, and hold them till they cool, and then join the petals. Now you can join the 2 halves of flower together. So if there's any excess you can trim off, then do that, because they'll lie a little bit more flush. Pretty good. And then on with a bludge of hot glue and pop them together. Hold them till they're set again. And now halfway up each petal, a little bit more hot glue on the 2 that are not joined. One that side and one this side. Take a pipe cleaner. Now I didn't have a normal straight one, I only had one of these bobbly ones, so I trimmed it a little bit. Pop some hot glue on there, nice big wudge. Pop your pipe cleaner over the top, then cut yourself a piece of scrap denim, which I have everywhere. My desk and my floor is covered in bits of denim. This has been a very messy craft to do. Pop a bit of denim over the top, just to give it a better seal, and then make sure that's glued firmly on. Like that. Now turn it back over, and we just need to put a little bit of decoration on. Now I'm trying to keep all the decoration in blue or white. I could put little bits of greenery and things on, but I don't want to. I think it's going to spoil the look. Snowflake, star. Snowflake, star. Snowflake. I'm not very good at making decisions. A little bit of hot glue. And pop it on the middle to hide all the nasty bits of glue that you can see. And that's done. You've got a few options you can do with these. For this one I use pipe cleaners, but I've also made some more. Now this one I've made using some rope. It's one I've taken off something else I've made, so it was a little bit unravelled, so I twisted it as I was going. And then in the same way as I put the pipe cleaners sticking up here, I put the bits of rope sticking up and then trimmed them off when it was finished. So I've got that one, and I've also got this one. Now I made these balls by using this. You get tons of this when you're cutting denim and shredding denim. So I just rolled it into a ball and then used the straggly ends to wrap around to make it even tighter. It was much bigger than this, obviously. And then glued it into place. One in the centre of each leaf, one in the middle, and then added some cute little bells. Right, let's go see what these look like up on my tree.
It's cold outside, but the fire keeps us warm. We can spend.
I got this. It's a bit of a leg off the pair of jeans. I've made a template of a feather shape and pop it onto my jeans, trying to keep the grain of the jeans running level with the template. Just do your best. You can fiddle around afterwards, then draw around it and cut it out. And you end up with one of these. Ooh, isn't that exciting? But now we're going to do something clever to this. At first it'll be quite easy to do. We're going to fray both sides, so you can just pick off the ends and they'll come away quite easily. Take your time doing this, because if it gets jammed because you pull too many, you need to sort out which ones are the top ones and pull those first. See there, it's got a bit jammed. Figure out which is the top one, pull that off, and then the rest come away easily. And then work your way right the way down, and when it gets a little bit deep to find some edges, take your pokey thing, and then you can just pop that in and pull like that and work your way down. Do this until you're almost halfway, about half a centimetre away from halfway. Then do the other side. I like to do that a bit on the one side, a bit on the other, and keep going from side to side. And that way then I'm just sure it's going to be central. And as you can see, the way that is, I didn't cut it straight on the grain, but you can trim that afterwards. When you get that middle piece, you can see what you're doing. So just carry on shredding and shredding your piece of jeans fabric until you've got this. If your point doesn't come into the centre, which mine didn't, being honest, cut your point where you need it to be on the centre of this thick rib, and then trim the rest of the feather shape right the way down, like that. Now you will find with denim there's a light side and a dark side. The inside is generally lighter. So decide if you want a darker feather or a lighter feather. I think I'm going for a darker one. So I'll put the light on the inside, out with a wire, and take out some of this florist tape. If you got white wire, you'll be fine. But if you haven't, then you need to cover your wire really. So I'm going to take this florist tape. It's very clever. You don't need to put glue on. When you stretch it, it activates some sort of wax inside it and it sticks. I'm still relatively new to doing this, so it is a lot easier than I make it look. Slightly stretch and turn like that, covering the whole of the wire, and it'll make the wire suit whatever colour you're making. You can buy brown, green. It's very difficult to get hold of it sometimes because especially the white is very popular at Christmas time and for weddings. Finish it off, and it does feel a little bit sticky. You may get a bit of stickiness on your hands. Decide which way up you want your feather. I've tapered this off a bit longer. Make it just look a little bit more feather-like. Using your hot glue, put a run of hot glue down your feather, and then add your wire, which is easier than it sounds. I find this very fiddly. And there you've got yourself a feather. And I've made a few of these, as you can see. I don't want to show you on the one I just glued because it's a little bit temperamental until the glue is completely set. But once you've got your feather like this, you can just slightly bend it down to give it a lovely bit of movement. So let's pop over to my tree and see what they look like.
And I've gotten you a present that I put under the tree. Tomorrow it is Christmas, the first for you and me.
If you're enjoying this denim Christmas decorations craft, then don't forget to give me a thumbs up, and why not subscribe? We've got lots more videos coming right up until Christmas and further on into next year and the next. Oh, it's such fun crafting. I really love it. Right, back to crafting. For this Christmas craft, I've got a pool ball and I've got a circle of denim fabric I cut. It hasn't got to be perfect, as you can see, mine certainly isn't, and you can cut it with a pinking shears if you want to. Take your ball. This is my least favourite colour of ball, so I'm using that one. Pop it in the middle, get yourself a pipe cleaner, and pick this up, and you're almost getting like a Christmas pudding effect. Right, so there we go. All done up like a Christmas pud. Pop on your pipe cleaner. You can tie this with twine, but I wouldn't fancy it. I think it would be too difficult unless you're using a thinner denim. You've got the thicker denim and you've also got a thinner one, which is quite cotton-like, and it's called chambray. Now that's a lot easier to deal with. Open out the top of your bauble. I've got this hanger I took off another bauble. There always seems to be something poking this way. What's that? There we go. I clean up at least what you can see. As is usual, Christmas is always a terrible mess on my desktop. Get yourself some glue, poke it in the hole, and then poke your hanger in. I've got these lovely stars. They're polystyrene covered in like a glittery snow effect. But they stick out too much on the back, so I use whatever I need to do. Sometimes some of them are soft enough to use your fingers. Other times you need a scissors. Just take the back off if you've got this. Otherwise they stick out far too far. Add some hot glue. Pop on my star. Now get out an assortment of whatever colour decorations you're going to use and pick the ones you like. Try them out, see what they look like. And then when you think, oh yes, I like that, glue it into place. And look at that, a really easy denim bauble made from a pool ball and some old jeans. So I've got this one, and I've made this one, which is a pool ball. I just wound it around with lots of jean seams. You can see the little seams off the jeans. I used a jean seam to make the hanger. I cut a long piece for the hanger, let bits hang down and put little pom-poms on the end. And then a little woolen bow at the top, or it's like a chenille yarn. And there's another one. This one is a patchwork one. It looks a bit hippie-ish, I think, with all the patches on it. And I didn't try to make this look perfect because I like the hippie look of it. And then stuck an eccentric flower on the front. And I also, using another pool ball, did the same thing, but I tried making this look a little bit more linear. I kept putting little bits of seams up and down, but in different colour denims. And then I got some wool and tried to be even as I came down in a spiral. It didn't quite work, but it's even enough for me. I'm happy, and as long as you're happy with your craft, that's all that matters. So 4 really different baubles, all made from denim and pool balls. Let's see what these look like up on my tree. This denim Christmas decoration craft, I'm using a couple of little bits of seam. You can use just about every bit of a pair of jeans if you're cutting them up, or dress, or whatever it is. Look at me, I've got bits of hot glue everywhere. Add a little bit of hot glue and start rolling. Now, when you're cutting your jeans, you can make the decision how close to the seam you actually want to cut. The further away you go, the more shabby it'll look. But that's not a bad thing. It just depends on the look you're going for. I cut this one quite tight. And you've also got the option to leave it a bit longer and then fray it all on the edges, and then you have a really frayed, shabby looking one. When you've got it started, you can then do it down on the desk. But getting it started is a little bit fiddly to start like this. Just roll it up and up until it's as big as the bauble you want. As you can see there, one isn't going to be enough. That's a bit small for a Christmas tree decoration. Well, for a bigger tree, it's a bit small. So I just get another piece and join it on. And then keep winding. I've got a bit of seam here that's very narrow, so I'm going to cut that little strip of fabric off it. And I'm going to use this as a hanger. Over the join there, put a bit of glue. Come that way. Lift up your loop. I think that loop may be a bit big. I'm going to shorten it. And then bring the other end of the loop up to where the edge is and butt them together there. So you can see it hides the little step. And now you've got a bauble. You can keep that as a simple bauble if you want. You can pick which side you like the best. I'm going to add a little something on it. First thing I'm going to do is come around the outside with some of these beads on a roll. They're half beads on a roll. One thing I like about making your own baubles is you can use all the ideas that are in your head. You can take all your craft bits and pieces and pick your favourite ones and use those. There are no rules. It's what you fancy and you can really express yourself. And in the centre, I'm going to add another one of my little snowflakes. You can put whatever you like. You can put a little floral arrangement. If you're having a multicoloured tree, you can put any colour you like on. It's because I'm colour theming, I'm sticking to the white. But again, just express yourself. And chop that little bit of fabric off there. It's sticking out a bit too much for me. There we go. So there you've got yourself a Christmas bauble, denim, just off a scrappy pair of jeans, and it's just the old seam. But I made some others to show you too. I've made this one. It's thicker because it's made from jeans, whereas this was from the chambray dress. You can see this side looks quite like a rose, but I wanted the smooth side. I added some pearls around here and a lovely little fluffy snowflake. I also did this one, which has got a little bit of tinsel and some snowballs and a bow. I made this one with a church and a star and a bow. And this one, which has just got a couple of little pearls, a bow, and some little bits of florally pick around the outside. So look how different they look, and they're so easy. There is no difficult part of this. It's all very simple, very easy, very quick, and lots and lots of fun. So let's see what these look like on the Christmas tree. for this easy Christmas decoration craft, I'm going to use a cardboard triangle, very important, and 2 different colour denims from 2 different pairs of jeans. Now this one is stretchy, but it doesn't really make any difference to this craft at all, whereas this one isn't. So taking my little triangle, I turn over the fabric and draw a gazillion triangles. An equal amount on both pieces of fabric. And then cut them out. Cut yourself an inch piece of denim. Now you can iron this if you wanted to. I've left it a little bit scrappy looking. As you can see, you end up with loads of this cotton bits that you can use for different projects if you're so inclined, or you can just throw it away. This denim is very messy, and I would say if you're going to tear rather than cut, if you've got asthma or something like that, any breathing issues, I wouldn't do that, because I have dust everywhere. You wouldn't believe the amount of dust that came off these jeans. Even though I washed and tumble dried them to clear a lot of the fibres out, there was still a lot of fibre left. Get your piece of inch wide denim, fold it in half on the one edge, then get your triangle. Now my triangles are designed to hang in one direction, so you have to be careful you don't put them the wrong way. Now I put a little bit of hot glue there, and then pop my triangle in, a little bit of hot glue on top of the triangle, and fold it over and press. And I'm leaving 2 inches between that one and the next flag, so come across 2 inches with some hot glue, fold it down, then take a different colour flag, bit of glue, pop down my flag, add another bit of glue, and then go back to the other colour. Now if you've got 4 or 5 different shades of blue, you could just alternate all of those too, and if you want more you can always use, as you can see, that side's that colour, that side's that colour, so you've got actually 4 different shades when you're using these. And glue it on, and if your fabric isn't long enough, which it probably isn't depending on how long you want your little garland to be, you can always just glue another piece onto the end and just carry on going until you've got the length of garland that you want. And here is my garland. Now you can add other things onto this if you want to. You can add a little bit of lace along the top, you can add some buttons to each little flag or a little decoration, you can fray things as much or as little as you fancy. But I'm going to leave them like this. I got a few ends to tidy up, and then I'm done. And let's see what this looks like up on my Christmas tree. Denim Christmas decoration craft, you'll need a pocket and also some bits and pieces. We'll look into those in a minute. First thing we have to do is attach a hanger onto this pocket. So turn it over, out with some hot glue, and just glue it to the back, either end of the top of the pocket. If you want to, you can cut yourself a really nice bit, you can sew it, you can edge it, you could put some zigzag sewing on your machine to make it look pretty in a different colour. I'm just going for something plain. And now I'm going to sort of break my rule, because I wanted these to be all blue and white. But this little piece of doily here, snip some of the hanging ends off, is more of a cream. But I fancy putting this on, so there's no harm in breaking your own rules. Put a few little blobs of hot glue on to start. Pop it in the middle, and then you can add glue then when you know exactly where it's going. Now, to make this look like it's got something in it, I'm going to pop a little bit of polyfill in the bottom. You can either buy this or do as I do, buy yourself cheap cushions from the thrift store. And now I'm just going to add a few little decorations. So first thing to put in, I've got these little fluffy bits. You can see they've already come off an old decoration. Still got bits of tinsel on them, but that doesn't matter because they go in right in like that. You can't see that bit. I think I'll put my flower in next. I got this flower. I don't think that's long enough to fit in, so I'm going to glue this in place instead. So I'm going to take this bit off. It all depends how permanent you want these things to be. If you want to reuse all your bits and pieces, then don't glue them into place. Well, not very strongly anyway. Pop that in there. Oh yes, I like that. And then I'm just going to add a few stars. And because these won't be here, I'm just going to pop a little bit of hot glue on them from the back to make sure they stay put. I've got this pom-pom here. Let's try this in. That's better. Just needed a little something. So I've got this pocket, and I also made a different one so you can see that you can try a few different things. This one I filled with poinsettia flowers. There's a little dog on the front, and up there you can't see, I put a little bit of lace on the top of the pocket. So 2 lovely easy Christmas decorations made out of denim, and let's see what these look like up on the tree. Denim Christmassy decoration, I'm going to take this boot-shaped piece of cardboard. Get yourself some cheap card or paper, keep trying until you're happy with the shape you want, and then trace it on some thicker cardboard. This is just a cheap piece of cardboard. It doesn't need to be an expensive piece of cardboard. Don't go buy an expensive card from a craft store. Just whatever you can get your hands on, cereal packet, anything like that. Using glue stick, glue the boot to a piece of denim and then cut around it. And then check if you've got any floppy bits. We can't be doing with floppy bits. Add a little bit more glue, stick them on a bit tighter. Then glue the other side of your bit of cardboard. You haven't got to do this if you're not worried at all that there's going to be anybody seeing the back, or if you're going to be sticking it on a card or something like that, using it in your journal, then that would be fine. But if you're going to be putting it on a tree, you never know when our tree is going to swirl around and reveal the back to the world. So I always like to do the back for Christmas tree decorations. Glue that into place. I don't worry about which way the grain is running on the fabric when I do this. I think it'll be fine. And then cut around again. You can trace around the fabric and then glue the fabric onto the card. Oh, that is very difficult to get accurately done and very fiddly. I just find this so much faster. And there you got your boot. And I'm going to come around the edge like that using hot glue. And this is fiddly. I would like to say, oh, this is really, it is easy, but it's fiddly. It's not difficult. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to do it. But you do need a lot of patience. It's well worth it. And I don't know if you remember, a few videos ago I said, what would you like for Christmas? And I said, I would like somebody to invent a really clear hot glue that when it was dry was invisible. Well, I've got another invention I'd like somebody to make now, if there are any inventors out there. A glue gun that puts a very, very, very fine bead of hot glue on things. I think I'd make less mess that way, but I can't be sure. Now I'm going to leave enough for a loop and then cut that off. Glue that into place. Now that I think is pretty enough all on its own, but I'm going to add a bit more decoration. I'm going to put this little bit of lace that I got here along there, and I think I'll come round the back as well if I've got enough. Let's see. Am I going to make it? Oh, look, nearly. It'll be enough. I'm going to stretch it. Don't tell anybody. Oh, by stretching it, it did actually go all the way around. So now I'm going to take this button, I've just chopped the back off, and I'm going to glue that on, just because I think it'll suit it perfectly. Which way? Definitely that way. Blob of hot glue. Where would we be without hot glue? Pop that into place. Now you can fiddle with this more, you can add more decorations, anything you like, but I love that the way it is. But I've also made a few more to show you. Surprise, surprise. I've got this one which I put a little bit of glitter around the edges, and I used some lace to make a little heel and toe in the sock, and this is a little bit of glitter foam. This one I made some go in one way, some the other. I thought it would add a bit of variety to the tree. This has got more of that lace, some on the top as well, and a few little buttons. I cut the shanks off and put those on. I made this boot with a little bit of lace coming out the back, and this is cotton wool. Just to show you that you don't need to buy expensive fur fabrics. This was one cotton wool ball that I unrolled. And I went around the edge of this one with some white furry chenille wool or yarn. And then a little bit of lace on the top. And a poinsettia flower on the front. So it just goes to show again. use your imagination, see what you can come up with. Look at that. These bits are everywhere. Right, let's see what these look like up on my Christmas tree. I took a piece of denim off the leg of a jean and I cut it into... oh dear, it's all the dust from these is terrible. And I cut them into about, what do you say that was, ½ inch? About 1/4 to ½ inch strips. Not very wide, but I tore them up as far as the seam and left them on because it just keeps them all together. And then you can take them off as you need them. Cut 3 lengths off. And all the associated raggedy bits, because I think that adds to the charm of this. Folding them in half and cutting them again. So in total, if you wanted to make the same size as me, then these are about 10 inches long. Fold them in half, take another piece of denim and wrap it at the halfway stage and tie a knot in it. So I'm going to get a bunch of these little raggedy bits again and I'm going to roll them up and then keep wrapping them round and all the little end bits that stick out and try and form a circle. Open out this, pop it in the middle and then pull the strands down over it and it'll just make the top of this little tassel a bit fatter. And it also uses up more bits and pieces. If you're into using every scrap that you can find, it's perfect. Get yourself another piece, glue it into place and wrap tightly around a few times. You can do this with twine if you wanted to, or if you've got some white yarn, something like that. For this project, for the way I'm doing it, I think the denim looks better. Give them a little bit of brush out, and then decide how long you want your tassel to be, and that will all depend how close together the branches on your tree are, because if they're really close, then it's no good having a really long one, it just won't dangle downwards very well. If you've got a real Christmas tree, or something with similar branches, you will have long gaps between the branches and that way you can make longer ones. Now you can again leave it like that or add a little bit of decoration. Well, you know me, let's add a bit of decoration. Tie myself a little 2-loop bow and then I'm going to glue that onto the front of the tassel. There. And for this one I think that's going to be enough. But of course there are options to decorate them differently and of course I have made a few to show you. I've made this one exactly the same, it's just it's got a little silver bow on it to add a little bit of oomph. And this one, I added a pearl to it and I added a row of these little stick-on diamonds all the way around and then I thought, oh, I've got a few left, so I stuck those on the pearl as well. Why not? So there are 3 different sorts. If you wanted to, you could be adding bits of white lace in the bottom, that sort of thing. There are just so many alternatives to doing these. This is the look I was going for. So let's see what these look like up on my Christmas tree. Oh, I am enjoying this Christmas craft. I hope you are. I just realised I filmed a whole craft of making an angel and I hadn't turned my camera on. So let's make another angel. So I've cut myself 2 pieces of chambray, 12 by 12 and 15 by 8. So on the 12 by 12 bit, I'm going to add a little bit of decoration to the bottom. I'm going to use this, isn't that gorgeous? A little bit of hot glue and pop it into place like that. Trim the edges and then wreath up the top of this. Just look quite even and make sure the outside pieces are facing backwards. Take your pipe cleaner and bring it around from the front to the back. Make sure you tie it at the back. Give it a couple of twists. Now these are going to be the wings, so I've decided I'm going to round the edges of these, but you don't need to. I'm going to try something different because this is another attempt at doing the same thing. I don't know if it'll work. I haven't tried this before, but we'll give it a go. And now I'm going to scrunch this up like that. Take your body not your body, your angel's body. Move the pipe cleaners so they're facing one up, one down. Decide which way you want your wings to go. Not sure now. That way or that way? That way, I think. Put them in place and fix them with your pipe cleaner. Chop your pipe cleaner off. And then chop as much as you dare off the top of the dress. Like that. Cut a piece of lace and put it over the pipe cleaner. And then pop some hot glue on your angel's head. And pop it on the top of the lace, and that hides the join. And now on my very last bit of my very last silver pipe cleaner. So hopefully this halo will look big enough. Perhaps she's just a beginner angel, so she's only got a little halo. Turn her over first. Let's get a hanger on. There we go. And now the hanger's in place. It's easier to see what we're doing. A little bit of glue on the back of the head and push the hanger onto it. Hold her head up when she's hanging. And then pop the halo in place and a tiny bit more hot glue just to be sure it stays put. Like that. But of course she's not the only one, so let's have a look what other ones I made. This is the one I just made to show you. I wasn't keen on this one. I thought the wings were too floppy without anything other than the chambray fabric, so I didn't like that. And I made this one, and I think she's my favourite. See what I've done with that one? I was thinking, why is that skirt so long? I put the rectangle the wrong way, so I've got the long end down instead of all the wreathing. That's what they're supposed to look like. Unless you want a longer dress, adjust those measurements to whatever size angel you want to do. So there we go. 3 angels made from old pairs of jeans, or this is an old denim dress. So let's see what these look like on my tree. Top of the tree we're going to need an angel, so I've got this piece of cardboard. I've just roughly cut it out in the right shape for making a cone. It's just a thin piece of card. You don't want anything too thick because otherwise you won't be able to fold it or roll it. Right. Make yourself a nice cone. It can take a while to get it the size you want. Keep persevering. And this doesn't need to come to a fine point because you're going to need the head on, so that's fine for me. Pop a little bit of hot glue there. And when that's cooling, I'm just going to put a staple or 2 down the bottom to hold it in place. Now I can let it go. It's much easier to glue. Lots of hot glue down there. Then squash it into place. Try not to burn your hands. First of all, I trim down the cone and then I'm going to cover it with fabric. So I'm going to try this with Scotch glue stick. I think it'll work. And it's a lot easier than trying to stick fabric with a hot glue gun. I'm going to chop a bit off the top of the cone. Pull the fabric back up and poke it in the top. Always use the right tool for the job. That's why I'm using the pliers to poke this in. And roughly trim the inside and then fold up any excess up inside the angel's skirt. Now I'm going to decorate this. The back of it's a bit messy, but we won't tell anybody. Nobody'll notice. It's not as if anybody's seen it. Well, other than everybody who's watched this video. Right. So come around with some pretty lace, whatever lace you got. No rules and regulations for this. Use what you got and what you feel like using. Shred yourself some little pieces of chambray. Get your ping pong ball. Now this one's off another project. As you can see, it's a little bit broken, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to push it in a little bit anyway. I'm going to put a load of glue on here and see if I can get this. May work, may not. To stick in and on, if you see what I mean. Make sure you've actually got your angel stood up when you do this, because it's so easy to have her with a tilted head if you're not careful. Take yourself 4-inch pieces of the fine chambray strips that you've cut, fold them in half and glue them along that line facing forward. This is going to form her fringe. And as you come to the sides, angle them down a little bit so the last piece is actually straight down, the way a fringe would naturally drop. The further down the head you come, the less long they have to be, because they're going to be all trimmed level and they're lower, if you see what I mean. So they've already got a head start on the ones that are coming all the way from the top. So there you've got a crazy fringe. Now, go to the back of the head and make sure it's central. And draw a line from the top, right the way down the back. And now you want to take much longer pieces. I'd say about 10 inches long for this. Cut yourself quite a few of those. Find out where the halfway line is. And then put that on a line of glue that's going right down the back of the head. You may find it easier at this point to not put glue right the way down. I haven't, in case I run out of little bits of fabric and then I've got to cut some more. And then it'll go cold. And then I'll have to put more on. Disaster. So now she looks a bit like this, which is a bit crazy. Not to worry. Next thing I'm going to do is to trim her fringe. Make sure you don't trim any of the back bits. And don't cut it too short at first. You can always trim it short. And now you can either leave her hair long or you can put it in braids. So I'm going to see what it looks like in braids, see if I like it. I don't know if I will. Oh, I think she's going to look pretty with braids, so I'm keeping those. Now some glue to make sure she doesn't have any baldy bits. And to glue her fringe down a bit further down onto her forehead, because that way then she'll look a bit neater. And now I'm going to put a ruffle around her neck to cover the join. A little bit of hot glue and wrap some lace around. Because my ping pong ball's a bit damaged, I'm going to pick it up a bit higher so you can adjust this to cover the bits you want it to cover. Remember, when you're crafting, you're in charge. Push things into place, give them a tug, whatever you need to do to make them look good. Now I cut 2 strips of fabric, 3.5 by 1.5 inches. I've got myself a pipe cleaner. That is going to go in the middle, and then I'm going to fold over the one piece of fabric and then glue the other on top there. I'll stick a little bit of glue in there so that I don't lose my pipe cleaner as well. We don't need a lot. Nobody's going to be swinging on your angel. Line of hot glue all the way down and glue it on. And then cut off the pipe cleaner and add a little bit of braid along that bottom end with some hot glue. And then I'm going to put enough hot glue in there to hold the end of the pipe cleaner and the fabric onto a little bead. This is a pearl bead. Poke it up inside like that. And then do exactly the same with the other one. Now I'm just going to fold the very edge of the top of the arms flat like that. And then I'm going to glue them to the back of her head. Or the back of her shoulders rather than her head. I suppose you could make these all in one. But I don't know whether you'll manage to get the angle right if you do that. And then stick the other one on. You haven't got to worry about this being a bit of a mess because her wings are going to be covering that. So this angel's going to be holding a star. So I'm going to pop some glue on the front and glue the star into place. Like that. Sorry, I'm wandering off camera then. And then a little bit of glue on the arm. Whoops. Hold my star in place. A little bit of glue on the arm. And then glue the hand holding the star. Like that. And then do the same with the other hand. I've got this lovely Deco mesh ribbon, so I'm going to work out how big I want her wings to be. This is the sort of thing, it's no good giving you strict measurements on because you never know until you're actually assembling your angel what size wings she's going to need. So these in total are going to be 7 inches across. I'm going to squash them in the middle and use a pipe cleaner to join them. And then glue these into place on the back of her neck where her arms are, and it'll completely hide the join then, like that. And I'm just going to trim the ends of her braids because they're a little bit too uneven, I think. There, that's better. Now you can add a face if you want to. I like the fact she hasn't got a face. I think it looks quite interesting. But if you want to put one on, just draw one on. Or you could use a bead, perhaps, if you've got a big enough bead with a face already on. So I'm just going to hold this for a few more seconds until that hot glue is cool. And then we'll go and see what this looks like up on my tree. today I'm going to make a Barbie Christmas tree. So I got this Barbie, I'm not sure what she's called, Flyaway Barbie, Fairy Barbie. She's 2011 it says on the back, and as you can see I got this for £2.50 from the charity shop or thrift store. So she's going to be my fairy for the top of the tree. Okay, she'll need a little bit of work, but we can sort that out. And I've got this car now, Don't Tell Barbie. This is why I've moved her off the table. This is actually a Cindy car. The opposition, and you can see there's an S. So we're going to do something about that to stop it looking like a Cindy car, and it costs 50p. I'm going to use this car as the base for the Christmas tree. So I'm going to cut these seat belts off because I don't think they add anything and they're in the way a bit. So now we need to do something about these Cindy wheels. We can't be doing with Cindy wheels on a Barbie car. So seeing as this is going to be a flamboyant Christmas tree, I've got some little fluffy pom-poms out with my glue gun, a blob of hot glue, and banish Cindy forever. Sorry all you Cindy lovers. When I was younger, my sister had a Cindy and I had a Tressie. Did any of you have a Tressie? With Tressie you could pull her hair out and then wound her belly button back up with a key and it all went back into her head, and then you could make it short or long. Until one day, as inevitably happened, you turned the key too much, the hair went right inside the head and you'd never get it out again. There. Cindy is banished. Now you may be wondering what my drill is doing here. I'll show you. I've got this. It was a 4-foot white Christmas tree, but I'm only going to use the top 2 feet. This is going to be standing in the Cindy car between the seats, and you can see it's not going to stand up. It'll keep falling over. So this is why I'm out with the drill, and I'm going to drill a hole. I think I'll use my drill block just to be doubly sure. And let's see how easy this happens. I think I'm going to need to do a little bit of work on it. Oh yes, definitely needed my wood block. Now you can see it fits in there, and I'm just going to put a bit of hot glue just to stop any wiggling that could be going on. So while that hot glue is cooling, hopefully with the tree still in a completely vertical position, we'll find out, I need to deal with poor old Barbie here. She's a bit of a mess. Give her chops a bit of a wipe. Do you call your face your chops? I always grew up with my mum saying, come here, let's wash your chops. So I think the top is going to be okay, but I don't think this bottom's looking very well. She's a bit exposed, isn't she, with all her joints showing. I don't think she's comfortable, so let's make her just a ballet skirt, I think. I've got some tulle here, which is brilliant because you don't need to hem this. It doesn't fray, so you can cut it and you're fine. So this is about 1 foot wide, so folded it's about 6 inches. I'm going to want lots of this because I want a really ruffled skirt. I've got this ball of crochet thread that I use to bind my books when I'm making journals and things. So I'm going to get lots of this on the needle. Pop Barbie to one side. And then take the humongous bit I cut off. Shall I measure this for you? There's about 8 feet of this. And now folding it in half. So do what they call a running stitch, which is in and out, in and out, in and out, right the way along. And this is going to take a while. So I'm not going to bore you silly. I'm just going to get on with it and then turn the camera back on. And this is what you end up with. I did cut 2 feet off the end because I thought I've really overestimated how much I'm going to need. And when you scrunch it all up, you get this wonderful tutu effect. Bring in Barbie. Pop on her tutu. Like that. And then go round the back. And tie a knot nice and tight on her waist. Don't worry that you can see her underwear. That will be disappearing very soon. Not that you'll see it anyway, because it'll be against the Christmas tree. And now you need to organise her ruffles. So we'll bring some around to the back. Put it underneath her wings. Pick your arm up. Come on. You've got to help out a little bit. She's so lazy, Barbie. And now look at that. That's much more angelic for the top of the tree. Now you can put something around the edge of this skirt, but because of the way we've sewn it, I don't think you need to. And I prefer it like this. It's just me. So now we need to do something with the hair. Hopefully your Barbie, if you're using one, has got very neat hair. Mine hasn't. Barbie needs a halo, but it's no good giving her a silver halo because she's Barbie and she doesn't want to be like every other angel. She wants her own individual Barbie style. So I'm going to make one out of pipe cleaners. Then part her hair and glue it to her neck. Then part her hair and glue it to the neck. Then bring her hair back down to hide where it's attached. Oh yes, doesn't she look very angelic now? So I think she's lovely. She's just going to need a bit of wire for when we put her on the tree, which I'm going to put under her skirt. And then she'll be able to be firmly attached. We don't want her falling off and bonking somebody on the head. So let's get on with some decorations to put on the Christmas tree. And I've got a few in mind. Let's have some fun. For these Barbie decorations, I'm going to be using 2 colours on every single craft that I'm doing with the glitter foam because I think it's nice to have the contrast. So I'm going to start with the cerise. I've got this heart-shaped punch. If you haven't got heart-shaped punch, all is not lost. Make yourself a little template out of cardboard or find a heart-shaped button, something like that. You can draw around it on the back with a pen or a pencil and then cut it out. It's just a bit slower. I can only just get the glitter foam in. You may have a narrower punch and it won't go in at all, in which case you're back to having to draw around a template. Pop out 3 hearts. Now fold your hearts with the glitter side together and give them a bit of a push just to help them with the next process in their journey. And then pop a little bit of glue on half of the heart, not on the glitter side. Get another heart and put it over the top there so you know it's straight. And then straight away, in case you've got any glue where you don't want it to be, open up the half of the heart like that. As you can see, I've got a little bit there that would have stuck the heart together. Yeah. I don't want the hangers on these to stand out. So I'm just using some white thread. Make a loop and put a knot in the bottom. In the fold here, put some glue, make sure it's right in the fold, and then you can glue your outsides as well. Now get your hanger and put the knot in and get it hidden by the heart. Get your other heart, pop that in and press it together. You've got a hanger already made. And now just to put something on the bottom, I have been using pearls and I've used the last of my pearls up. So this time I'm going to use one of these lovely little beaded berries. So get your pearl or your beaded berry or whatever you're going to be using. A fluffy pom-pom will do just as nice a job. A bit of hot glue and on with whatever it is you're using. And as easy as that, you've got yourself a lovely hanging Barbie decoration. And then make yourself a few more. As you can see, these ones I have used a little pearl. I think the pearl looks more expensive than the bead, but it's just personal taste. Whatever you fancy, put it on. Right, let's make something else. For this next glamorous Barbie tree decoration, I've got some more hearts. I've got 5 here, 2 in one colour, 3 in another. And this is a lovely simple one to make. Turn your heart over, pop a little blob of glue near the top. Take one of the alternate colour hearts and pop that on just on the point there, so you're getting that sort of effect. Now you can do this with all one colour. If you're making these for a tree that isn't a Barbie tree, if you just want a glamorous decoration, you can use all silver, all gold, silver and gold, whatever. And you're going to repeat that for the 5 hearts. And it is difficult to get them in a line, I find anyway. Whoops, and they keep sticking to you, look. Hot glue gets everywhere. And now to add another thread hanger on the back. And I'm not worrying what the back looks like, but if it bothers you, you can always cover this with something. Plop it on. Aha, I just remembered I've got myself another set of finger protectors. I don't know where these go. It's like the odd socks, things like that. They seem to just disappear. Now, it's a good idea to let your glue cool before you put this down on your desk, because otherwise it could stick to the desk, but I haven't got time. And now I'm using another berry. I would have used a pearl, but I've used them all up onto the bottom of the decoration. So here I have my collection of dangles. You can see this one with the bead, and I did this one. You can see that it's slightly different with which bit goes behind which bit. So they are really easy. I think they look absolutely spectacular. And you can also, if you want to, you could add a tassel on the bottom instead of a bead, and then they'd hang even longer. You can adjust the size of the hearts depending on what size decoration you want, depending on the size of your tree. I'm using a small tree, so these will be perfect. Don't forget to stay till the end of the video and I'm going to decorate my Barbie tree and show you what it looks like. I can't wait. For this next Barbie Christmas decoration, I've marked this piece of foam or glitter foam at 4 centimetres by 9.5. The height is completely dependent on how big you want them, and this distance here is all dependent on the size you want to make it. I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to make this by rolling it around my pen. So if you've got something that's wider than a pen, you'll need to make it wider so that it'll roll all the way around the pen and not leave a gap, because then you can't stick it to anything. So I'm going to get this wrapped virtually around my pen, and then right near the end, pop a line of hot glue. Be careful you don't get it too far around or you will glue it to your pen. Don't ask me how I know that. I don't want to embarrass myself. Right now, if you haven't put your glue too far around, this should slide off your pen. Phew, that would have been embarrassing if on camera it had stuck to my pen. Now in whatever colour I'm not using, which is this light pink, I'm going to cut a pretty decoration to go around. So first thing I'm going to do is cut very, very closely to this edge with the pinking shears. You can use these like frilly edge scissors, or you can cut it straight. It doesn't really matter. I think it adds a bit more interest if you've used something like this. And then really close, well not too close, about, what should we say, 0.5 centimetre away. Do your best to be straight, but don't worry if it isn't. If it bothers you, then draw a line and do this on the back and follow the line. And then what I like to do just before I start sticking these, I'll show you, you just make sure, run the scissors along, and sometimes there's a little edge sticking up. Now using hot glue, I'm going to put this on as a decoration, cut that at an angle, and I'm getting hot glue everywhere, again, and come down, following that angle, round and around and around until you get to the bottom. You don't need to glue every single centimetre of this. You can leave a little gap, but don't leave too much, a little sag. We can't be doing with saggy decorations. Come round to the bottom and then snip it off. And then you'll probably need a little bit of glue on the edge there to make sure it fits in nicely. Or sticks on nicely rather than fits in. Like that. And now I've got this tub that a viewer gave me, and it's full of little bits and pieces, and one of the things are these little pegs. So about here, and I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue. Open my peg because these have been painted and some of them are glued tightly shut, and then pop the peg carefully into the glue and hold it till it cools. Don't try doing anything until it has completely cooled, otherwise it'll just fall off. But now we need to do something at the top. And for me, I'm going to use something that came out of the same pot. Oh, there's me saying I've run out of pearls, and I've got a whole pot of pearls here. I forgot these were in here. Right, so I need one of these little floral bits and a little pom-pom, I think. So a little run of glue around the top. On with my petals. More glue. And on with my little sparkly pom-pom. And look at that. Isn't that cute? The back isn't so cute, but that is lovely. And of course I made more. So I got the light with dark, got the darks with lights, and just noticed I didn't put different colour pom-poms on the top. Oh well, this one can be individual. It can stand out. You can say, hey, I'm different, look at me. Oh, this is exciting. I hope you're enjoying it. Don't forget, we're decorating the tree at the end, so don't rush off. You want to see what these look like on the tree. Right, let's try making something else. So, for this Barbie Christmas decoration, I've cut myself a piece of glitter foam, 4 centimetres by 6 centimetres. Out with my pen. You can tell I've glued things to this pen. Look, there's still some glue on it. There, pull that off. Nobody knows. So now before I start rolling, I'm going to put my run of hot glue down there, just because it'll be starting to cool before I get there and I'm less likely to need my finger protectors. And then roll this up and push it into place. And let's try the pull off the pen test. Ta-da! Ooh! Aha! Just realised I've used the wrong size pen. I've got 2 here, and this doesn't look much bigger, but I've got all this excess. But that doesn't matter. We're going to ignore that. You're far too polite to point that out to me. So this is 6 centimetres high and this is 8 centimetres high. fold it in half that way. Not that way, that way. And now imagine when you were in school and you made paper lanterns. So cut yourself some nice thin lines quite close to the edge, but not too close, otherwise you'll go too far, and chop it off. If you're really brave, you can make these really fine. I don't like to make them really fine. I'm not that brave. I'll end up cutting some of them off. So about there's where I feel safe. They do look nicer though. They got more flow if you cut them really thin. Put a run of hot glue all the way around the top edge. Or the bottom edge. It doesn't make any difference. And then joining at the back, you want to put your piece of glitter foam in line with the top. Like that. I've just decided I'm not going to glue this on there. I'm going to take it off while it's still warm and show you a really clever way of doing this, because I've made some so that I want to show you, and I did mean to show you this one a little bit posher. So add your hot glue on again if you already put it together like me, if you're following step by step and think, what's she up to now? I want to try that. And then just come around about 1 centimetre and start joining it on then. And stick on all the way around. Now it looks a bit of a mess because it's squashed. Don't worry, we've got to sort that any minute now, but I don't want to do anything until this hot glue is cool. So while that's half cooled, I'm going to put it up there in all its non-glory. Using the darker colour while that is cooling, I'm going to come along and cut myself a 1 centimetre strip off this. A generous 1 centimetre. Now this is fiddly. I'm not going to be able to do this first bit with finger protectors, so give it a little blow so that it's much cooler, but not completely cool. And then you can make sure you've got a nice tight curl there. And then when you have, you can come along using some hot glue and make yourself a roll. Keep checking your roll until it'll cover the top of your decoration. So I need a little bit more, I think. And now this should be cool, so I'm going to turn all these little floofy bits out. So they're facing the way they should be, instead of looking like a right knot. And you've got yourself this curly lantern effect. And now, cover the top of your bauble with hot glue. And on with the top. While I'm waiting for this to dry, I'll tell you how I've been doing this before. When I start that initial roll, I put the hanger in there, so it's already into the top of the bauble. But for this one, I've realised I've got those extra pearls, so I'm going to use one of those. I think they're very nice when they're used on a hanger, and I'll show you how. Get yourself your little pearl or your bead or whatever you're using, and some needle and thread. Thread up. Poke it back through the bottom. But don't pull it all the way, otherwise it'll just pop straight back out again. Tie yourself a knot down the bottom. Snip it off. Watch your bead doesn't fall off the top. Pop on some hot glue right in the centre. And then pop that on the top there. And then on the bottom, you can decorate it how you like. I'm going to put another one of those petal-y things on. And because I like the look on it, I'm going to stick another pom-pom in too. Like that. Just away. Now I'm just going to add a little bit of tinsel around this join to make it look a little bit better, because it's not the best join I've ever made in my life. Like that. And I've flattened all my bits again. And here are some variations I made. I cut this one a bit narrower and I turned this, so you can see there. That's much more curvy than the one I just made. So you can just curve these as much as you like. You can make them straight. It's whatever you fancy. And I put this little bit of a fringe on, which was made by, I'll just show you on this piece here. Just cut yourself some very thin lines, almost to the top, like that. Then roll it around. And then the more you cut, the more tassels you'll get. You see the idea. This is the one I just made. This one is exactly the same theme, but it's got a little paper ball either end, and then this one has just got some pink berries on the bottom to make that more interesting. Don't forget to subscribe if you're enjoying this video, because I've got a few more things to make now. I want lots more videos coming up and you don't want to miss any of them. The new year's coming. What on earth are we going to make in the new year? I've got some plans. I think you'll enjoy them. Right, back to crafting. For this glamorous Barbie Christmas craft, I've got another little tube I've made, and this is only 3 centimetres long. I've got myself a piece of 6 centimetre foam, and I'm just going to check how much I need of this to go around. Same sort of principle as on the last decoration. About there-ish. Draw a line and cut out the size you've got. And now fold it in half again like that. And now we're going to do some thick chomps, much faster. And now we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to have a different result. Glue that in place, but you'll notice there's a substantial amount hanging off the end, and that is all part of the plan. Fold back the other end. Another run of hot glue. I know it still looks like it's going to be exactly the same as the last one, but it's not. Fold that out. Got some glue on that bit. Try not to do that. Set that down to cool, and then out with the heart-shaped punch again. And now using the lighter pink, cut 2 out. Pick the ugly bit to go on the bottom, and then you're going to be gluing a heart on either side, like that. Or a flower, or some beads, or whatever you fancy. A pom-pom, a snowflake, a bee for Barbie. And because of where I attach the hanger, I do like to try, and I'm a little bit liberal with where my bottom comes, because then I try to get this one facing straight up, or one of the little legs facing straight up, so that it hangs straighter. And do the same on the other side. Using some thread, poke it through the top loop, which is much easier if your hands are not covered in hot glue. And then tie a knot and snip it off. And there you've got like a cartwheel decoration. Very pretty and very easy. As soon as you've got the hang of this, just cutting slits and things and gluing them to things, it's amazing what you can come up with. So I've made a few of these, as you can see. And they're going to go on the Barbie tree at the end of the video too. Right, let's try something else. For this glamorous Barbie Christmas decoration, I've got this piece of card. It's supposed to be lollipop shaped. I know, it's not really as well lollipop shaped as it could be, but it'll do. I'm going to glue this to the piece of glitter foam. So put the glue on the cardboard rather than on the foam. Pop it into place and then cut around. And then I'd like to come along and trim the inside bit of the cardboard, because corrugated cardboard never really cuts a clean edge. Now I'm covering the outside with some hot glue and bring in a pipe cleaner all the way around, making sure you give it a good push, because you want it to be really firmly attached, because pipe cleaners have got a mind of their own, because they've got that little bit of wire in. If there's a little bend in or kink in the wire, it'll pop away. Then form a bow from the little bit of pipe cleaner you've got left, or a different one if you haven't got any left, and pop that on just to decorate this furry ice cream or lollipop or popsicle, whatever you call it. I'm not sure I'd want a furry popsicle, but I'm sure Barbie would love one. Get yourself a lollipop stick that you've painted, and then pop a little bit of glue on the back and pop this onto the back of your lollipop. Central as you can get it, but make sure you've got a nice long leg. I'm doing that because I want to be able to poke this into the tree and it'll hold in place. And of course I've made a selection, and you can put different things on the front. This one's got little pom-poms on and lots of bits of hot glue. This one's got another one of those hearts which will tie the theme of the tree together. This one's got little offcuts of ribbon that I had left after I had put them on the edge of these lollipops. You can do anything you like. Unfortunately, I was running out of ribbon there, so I just bodged it together. But I don't think you'll notice when it's on the tree and in the distance. And if you wiggle it quickly, look at that. All the problems have disappeared. We're getting closer to seeing the decorated tree. Let's check out the next craft. This piece of glitter foam just happens to be 4 centimetres by 19 centimetres. You can just fiddle about with the sizes until you get something you think will look good as a bow. I think that's going to be a nice size. Fold your piece of foam in half. cut yourself an oval shape, and then get yourself some hot glue, blob in there, fold the glitter foam back over so the glitter's outside, and bring the ends in and glue them like that. When you cut in these, always make sure the little open end is narrower than the folded end, and that way then they'll fold nicely and you won't have any overlapping bits sticking out on the front of your bow. So there you've got the basis for a bow. Now you can do a few things here. You can put a ribbon on, you can tie a ribbon on. I'm going to use some more foam glitter, so I'm going to cut up the edges of this with my pinking shears, put it down, put this on the middle, bit more hot glue, and bring it around. And if it's a bit too long, just give it a snip. And now to continue the theme, I'm going to make a heart and glue it onto the front of the bow. And of course I've got a selection here that I've made, and they're all slightly different. They're different sizes, and if I show you this one, all I did was cut a little V shape out of the end of each part of the bow to make it a little bit more interesting. And this one I haven't put anything on. I've left this simple so it looks more like a dicky bow. You've got a nice selection there, and you can just let your imagination run riot. Now, if I didn't explain myself properly and you find that you've got the bottom of your bow is sticking out further than the top, I think this is the closest I got to that happening, then you just come along and just very carefully take a sliver off like that so that you hide in the back of the bow. Oops. And I even made a little tiny cute one. Right, the time has arrived. I'm going to decorate the tree, and then we'll have a look, see what it looks like with Barbie and all her glamorous decorations on top of the tree. I'm really looking forward to this. Let's see what it looks like. Are you looking for an easy bow tutorial? If so, then this is the video for you. Today I've got 10 different bows to show you, and they're all easy. Some a little more complex than the others, but you'll be able to do each and every one of these when you watch the tutorial. Now, it's near Christmas when I'm filming this, but I'm going to do bows for all through the year to give you an idea of the sort of things you can do for any season, any celebration. These two types of ribbon are very important to distinguish between. This is a ribbon that is just a ribbon. There's no wire in this at all. It's floppy. So if you're going to make a big loop on something, you can see no matter what you do with it, it's not really going to hold that shape. Now, that's not a bad thing. It all depends what sort of bow you're going to be making. This ribbon, on the other hand, is a wired ribbon. Now, if you look carefully, you can see little bits of wire there. Now, this ribbon is completely different because if I wanted to do a big loop, look at that, it stays nicely. And if it got squashed, it's not a problem. You just floof it out and it's back to what it was again. So there are two very important differences in ribbon. Well worth bearing in mind. Now, another important consideration when you're making bows is the width of the ribbon. It sounds silly, but hear me out. I've got this, and this is 2.5 inches wide. It's not wired, but it's hessian, which means it's got a little bit of hold to the shape. So I can make that size loop, and that's about as far as you can push it without it being floppy. If you make a big loop with that, it will flop. But you can see if you're making a smaller loop, you really don't need that bit of wire. And then I got this, which is a little piece of ribbon, really fine, probably about 1/4 of an inch. And I got this from inside a jumper where they put the little hanger things on. And they always drive me nuts because they pop out of the neck of your jumper or your sweater when you're wearing it. And you look very dishevelled, so I always cut them off. And not ribbon. These are just scraps of fabric, and we will be making a bow out of some scraps of fabric, so I'll throw those in there too, just to show you what's coming up. Right, let's get stuck in with the first and most simple bow. So the first thing to do is to show you a 2-loop bow, which I'm going to use this for first. So you make a loop, form another loop in the other hand, and tie a knot using the loops, not the straight edges, the loops. You can then adjust it so that the loops are the size you want, and then you can cut your tails like that, and you've got yourself a really simple bow. There you are. That was easy. The rest are going to be that easy, just take a little bit more time. Right, let's get on with bow number 2. For this bow, I'm going to use some wired ribbon. This is 1.5 inches wide, and it's got pattern on one side, and the other side does have a bit of pattern, but it's obviously the other side. But that doesn't matter. I'll show you how to make a bow that looks fabulous using this. So you want to hold this piece of ribbon in your hand, and then put this bit where your thumb is halfway along, so you're going to have one loop this way, and then bring in your other loop on the other side. And then don't think, oh, I've done it wrong. Just fiddle about with it. Take your time. You can't get this wrong. You can just take longer to do it. And when you're happy with that, cut off the ribbon. Take yourself a pipe cleaner. Now scrunch this up like that in the middle. Make sure you're halfway. Sometimes you think you are, and then when you look properly, you're not. And then pop your pipe cleaner around like that, and then pull and twist like that. And now you can either chop your pipe cleaners off and glue this into place, or you can attach it to something using the pipe cleaners. So if you're not quite sure, leave your pipe cleaner on for the moment and you can take it off later. Now floof out your loops, and you've got your loops and your tails. So I'm going to dovetail these. And there you've got yourself a looped bow using a pipe cleaner. Now the pipe cleaner, you may think, well, I'm happy with that. Or you may decide you want to do something. So you've got a few choices. You can get an old piece of jewellery. I've got this brooch. And you can put that on there. And doesn't that change the look of this straight away? You can get a button that matches something in your ribbon. This matches the pair there. And you can glue that over the top of the pipe cleaner. You can put something like this butterfly embellishment on. Or you can put a little false flower on, something like that. Now that is going to lead me very nicely into the next bow we make. It's a layered bow. For this layered bow, I'm going to use this beautiful pink 2.5 inch ribbon, this 2-inch Deco mesh ribbon, and our original 1.5 inch ribbon with little pears and birds on. You're going to make a repeat of this another twice. So this is going to have to be slightly bigger than this bow, otherwise you're not going to see it. And also make sure your tails are longer, because the further you go back, the longer you want your tails. So the same sort of principle. Now this isn't wired, but it's really stiff, so I don't think there'll be any problem with keeping the loops of the bow up the way they are. Get your other bow, put it on. Yep, that's just a little bit longer, just what I want. Scrunch it up, put a pipe cleaner on. You can use a zip tie for this. You can tie it with a little piece of string or ribbon, but that's very difficult. Cut it roughly to size, and then make sure your bow is central. Mine very rarely are on a first attempt. and then make one more bow using this gorgeous pink wired ribbon. Be aware, if you're using your dressmaking scissors or your best scissors, don't cut wired ribbon and don't cut pipe cleaners. This is one that is designed to cut this sort of thing, but I really wouldn't use my dressmaking scissors for it because it would dull the edge. So now I get my 3 bows, put them, biggest one on the bottom, next one there, and then the longest pipe cleaner that we didn't trim the ends off on top, and then pop it on. Bring the pipe cleaner around the back, give it a bit of a twist, check that everything is where you want it to be, and then floof your bow. Very important to floof your bow. It looks like 3 times as good if you floof it. If you don't floof it, it'll look a little bit dead and flat. Now I'm going to dovetail my tails. This looks lovely with all different types of gingham or florals. I do like to put a plain in between 2 patterns. A personal choice, but I just think it looks so much nicer when you've got pattern, plain patterned. Otherwise it can be a bit overwhelming unless they really go together well. Cut yourself off a piece of ribbon. I put a run of glue down there and fold it. You can't really see this, can you? A run of glue down there and fold it. Then a run of glue down the other side and fold that on the top. Like that. So you're getting a thinner piece of ribbon. And now I'm going to put this in through over the pipe cleaner like that. And then hot glue the back. If you've got some ends that you want to keep out, make sure they go either side of this. And then you can trim your edges then when you know exactly how much you need. So I glue one piece into place. And then holding that very firmly because you don't want to pull it off. Get a bit of tension on this and glue the other piece on the top. The other piece. Oh, you can tell I'm concentrated. And then snip that to length. And if you want to, you can use a contrasting bow. You can use the colour from the very last bow. And then what you'll find is if you're attaching this to something, you'll be working on it and think, oh no, what have I done to my bow? I've ruined my bow. No, you haven't. Don't panic. Floof it up again. Remember, the most important part is to keep floofing and floofing whenever you need to. And this is why I don't take too much care early on, because you know you're probably going to squash the loops at some point and then need to re-floof later. So there we got another bow. I hope you're feeling confident. We've got more bows to come, and I know you're going to be able to make all of them. You can make a bow like this after watching my tutorial for, I don't know, how long has this been running for? 15 minutes, something like that. Could even be less. Let's move on to the next one. So now I'm going to make a 5-loop bow. For this, I've got myself this burlap ribbon. It's got a nice firm wiring because some of the wires are not as firm as others. And this I have used before, and there are some joins and bits of glue. So don't panic, yours won't have that when you buy it from the shop. Hopefully, although I will show you, this is straight off the roll, and look at that, there's a join in it. So if it really does concern you, you don't want any problems with your bows, open up your roll first and check all your ribbon before you start. Right, so we want a bit of a tail for this one. I think a tail, ooh, a nice long one about there. What's that? About 16 inches. And then I'm going to make a little loop. That is, ooh, about 2 inches. And then squash it up like that and pinch it. Now this ribbon is 2-sided, so you don't really need to twist it. But I'm going to twist it just to show you how easy it is, and that if you always twist every ribbon, you'll never get it wrong. And that way you would keep the good side on the outside. You wouldn't want the bad side on the outside, if you see what I mean. So now we're going to make a bigger loop. And I'm going to go for about this size, which if I measure it, it's about 4 inches up and down, so about 8 inches in total length. Make your loop. Come back to the middle. Pinch it up nicely. Make your loop, come back to the middle, pinch it up nicely, and then hold it at the join that you're making and give it a twist, don't forget. And then the same size there, and then gather it up, and then pinch it, hold it, And now I can already see that one's too big, so it's not a problem. Just let it go, shrink it down a bit, pinch it up, hold it in place, twist it, and don't be frightened to twist your ribbon. You can be really vicious with this ribbon if necessary. And then another loop, wreath it up, give it a twist, and every time these have to be going from one side to the other. Now I'm going to change the name to this. You probably noticed on the card that it said a 6-loop bow. That's because I don't usually count that as one of my loops. So coming back and put my next loop on, pinch it in, put it in to my pinch, give it a twist, and then cut it off. So now you've got all your important magudgeons going on there. Get yourself a pipe cleaner. And now this is a tricky bit. You want to put your pipe cleaner through the little loop. You see the little loop that we made on the top, the shorter one? Poke your pipe cleaner through there. And then bring it around the bow to the back. And don't panic if you accidentally let go at this point, which I have done on several occasions. You just make it again. It's good practice. The more you make bows, the better you get at it. When I first made bows, they were a disaster. So again, before you fully tighten it, just check that you're happy with the length of your loops and just wiggle them and jiggle them and pull them and tug them until they're all roughly the same size. And then ignoring that big blob of glue that has come right to the top there. If you give them a bit of a twist, then you can get them to face the direction you want to. And then your shorter one, you can see if this was a full-size loop, would just turn into another loop, whereas now it's the centre of the bow. And you can see this has taken me quite a while. I've been making bows for about 2 years now, so don't worry if it's your first bow or even your 10th bow or the first year of bow making, you will get better. Plus, when you settle down and spend a lot of time, it's amazing how wonderful you can get these bows to look. I'm going to leave the tails on these because if you stay to the end, I'm going to be showing you a bit more detail about tails for bows. But now I'm going to give you a little bit of a bonus. I'm going to use this ribbon. Always keep an eye out in thrift stores, charity shops, on eBay for rolls of ribbon because this is so expensive to buy. And if you shop around, you can find some real bargains. So I want to get myself tails even longer than the tails I've got on this bow. Plenty there. And then I'm going to do a similar sort of thing, but I'm not going to make that centre little loop that we've got here because we've already got something that covers the pipe cleaner. So I want to make loops, again, a bit bigger than the loops on this layer. So let's get a nice size loop there. I'm not going to go just bigger. I'm going to go a fair bit bigger, I think there. So make myself a loop, scrunch it up. One tip, always put your ribbon on the floor. It doesn't sound very glamorous, but otherwise you just coils and coils and you end up in a knot. And then make another loop. And yeah, I bet you already know what I'm going to be doing because you're learning so well. You're really understanding everything I'm doing, so well done on you. Another loop and scrunch it up. I can't wait to hear how you get on making these bows. Let me know. I really am excited to think that you're going to have access to all these ideas for a bow in one video. And I'm going to do a 5th loop there. Scrunch it up, pop it in place, and give it a twist. Out with a pipe cleaner. You know me and bargains. I do love a bargain. So I always recommend that you keep an eye out for just about anything in thrift stores. I got these pipe cleaners, lots of different ones. Not the nicest of colours, some, but most will be hidden. So now floof out your loops. One of the most important parts of bow making. So now squash it a bit. Don't panic. We're going to be sorting that out soon. Give it a tighten. And then put this bow over the top of this bow. Making sure my tails are where I want them to be. Fix it loosely at the back. Now pull my loops into place so I know I like the positioning. Don't forget, give them a good twist if they need it. And for this one, because it's a bigger bow, and you don't need to do this, I'm just going to double up on the pipe cleaners like that, rather than cut them off. I don't always do this, but sometimes if I've got enough pipe cleaner left sticking out, I'll do that. Just makes them a little bit more firm. I didn't have a full double there, so I'll fold the top bit over and give that a bit of a twist as well. There we go. They don't look very pretty, but you won't see them when they're attached to your craft or whatever it is you're making. So now I've got this bow and it needs floofing. Doesn't that need floofing? So always floof your back first and then floof your front. And don't see this as time consuming, see this as fun, because it really is. It's what makes the transformation on your bow. And the fun doesn't stop there, because you can, if you want to, then add another big bow on the back of that again, making your loops even bigger. And if you've got a wider ribbon, then all the better. Let's see, I've got some ribbon here. My desk is covered in ribbons. I'll just do a little example for you. I'll make some loops like that. This obviously isn't going to be a finished product. And then you can put it behind that bow. It gives you even more dimension again. I would tend to go for, if you got darker at the front, I'd go for darker at the back too though. So that's another bow that I'm not going to be doing my tails on. Don't forget, stay till the end of the video, because we've got some tails information coming up that you'll find really interesting. The next bow I'm going to make is a scrappy bow, and for that I've got all these scraps. My granddaughter has been making dresses and outfits, and she gave me all her scrappy bits she didn't want, and I thought, oh, I know what to do with those. So they're quite thin. Some of them are a bit jaggedy, but that doesn't matter. Some of them are thicker than others, so if you've got one you think's a bit too thick, just take a scissors to it, chop it right the way along the length, as straight as you can manage or as straight as you want to. Don't worry about that. Now, when you're making a scrappy bow, you can also use other bits and pieces. I've got this gingham ribbon here. I got these bits of lace. And you can add just about anything. If you're making one that you want to look really countrified, you can even use bits of twine in it too. Now, I'm going to add some black and white gingham to this too, because I think black and white gingham really highlights the lilacs and whites in this. And this, as you can see, isn't perfectly white. You can use a bit of anything. Oh, look, I've got more glitter everywhere. My whole house is full of glitter. So your scrappy bow is going to be half the length of all the scraps you got. But your scraps don't have to be the same size. So you can decide how big you want your scrappy bow to be. I'd like my scrappy bow to be completely about that long. So I've got this piece snipped. And I'm going to put it there. And that's going to be the longest I want my pieces. I don't want pieces any longer than that. But this is going to be quite a grand scrappy bow. You can make small ones. You can make middle-sized ones. You could make enormous ones, I suppose. And now just take all your bits and pieces and start crisscrossing them over and over, making sure that the sizes are roughly right, no longer than your largest one that you want. And I like to put 2 of each. So I'm going to put 2 of those, unless you've only got one, in which case 1 will do. And keep doing that until you've got a pile of scrappy bits. And then last of all, I'm going to take this longer piece of lace and I'm going to use these as tails. So find out where the centre mark is, pop it like that. Then take myself a little strip of fabric, pinch in at the middle and tie it up. And don't worry if this isn't completely central, because you can trim it or not, depending on what you want to do. So there you've got a scrappy bow. Now, these are rather long, so I'm going to cut them off about there because I don't want them too long. Chop that one down because he's a bit too long. And that can be a scrappy bow, but if you want to, there's something else you can do. So I'm going to show you the next stage. Get more pieces, but this time you're going to make a much smaller bow. So now you know what to do, so we'll jump straight over to what this looks like when I've tied it up. So I've got this, and I'm going to take this and tie it to the big long scrappy bow, and this makes the scrappy bow into the tails of the little scrappy bow. So now it's up to you how much you want to trim this, how much you don't want to trim it. I love them the scrappier the better. I think if you're going to go for a scrappy bow, you might as well go all in and end up with something that looks really scrappy like this. I just love that. Now these are great for French shabby chic. You could put these on the side of a picture frame and they would look amazing. You can put them on your Christmas tree. You can make lots of scrappy bows and hang them all over your Christmas tree, and that looks absolutely stunning. Especially if you add little bits of tinsel or something sparkly in as well. Fortunately, I've got these little sparkly bits of fabric. So that one was very easy, wasn't it? Very much fun. And you can use scraps of anything, tear up old clothing, whatever you fancy. Just make it look the way you want it to. Very scrappy, semi-scrappy, or extremely scrappy. Look at me, I fiddle around with them all the time. I'm never happy. I'm always wiggling and fiddling around with them until they're in place. Right, let's find out what other sort of bows we can make. For this next bow, I'm going to use 3 different types of ribbon. This is wired ribbon. It's 2.5 inches wide. I've got these bees, yellow and white stripes, and I'm going to put some black and white gingham. So the first thing you want to do is cut yourself some 20-inch long pieces of ribbon. I find it's easier to measure my first one, cut it to size, and then you can measure the others against this one piece of ribbon. Again, drop your ribbon onto the floor, otherwise it just coils and coils and gets very frustrating. I'm going to fold these in half. So I've got a selection of 3 different types of ribbon, but they all coordinate. I mean, you could go for obscenely uncoordinating if you wanted to. It's completely up to you, and you can do this in pinks, reds, greens, browns, neutrals. So now I leave about 4 inches and pinch. And then hold this. Now you are going to end up with all these in your hand, so be aware of that. Make sure you've got your pipe cleaner ready. Very important. You don't want to have them all in your hand and then think, where's my pipe cleaner? So on to the next colour. 4 inches, scrunch, and you don't need to measure each one because once you've got a few on, you can't get it wrong. And we sort of going round in a circle, almost like a hand-tied bunch of flowers, if you've ever made yourself a hand-tied bunch of flowers. Oh, I think they look lovely, hand-tied flowers. I love going down the garden, picking some flowers and then hand-tying them. Always looks so nice. So then you keep coming around in your order. If you don't, you can end up with too many of one colour all clumped together. Scrunch and then pinch. And now you can see we've been right the way around. We're going to have to come a little bit to the outside. Scrunch and pinch. And now, it's difficult. You need to turn it all around in your hand if you can. So this is fiddly, but it's not difficult to understand. You, I'm sure, can make one of these. I think you'll have no problems at all other than the trying to hold them, and that all just takes practice. I find the more you practice with this sort of thing, the better you get. And when you've done that, get your pipe cleaner and be careful not to let go until you've got your pipe cleaner in place. Put it into place and then twist it. And this is going to take some twisting. If you've got a flimsy pipe cleaner, one of the really thin ones, it could snap. So be aware of that. Really, a cable tie is better for this. And then it's just one yank and you're in place. It takes a lot of twisting with a pipe cleaner. So you've got this and you think, well, that's not very exciting, is it? We're not finished yet. First thing I'm going to do is dovetail all my tails. And it's at this point you realise just how many tails you have to dovetail. It takes quite a while, but it's good practice. When all your ends are dovetailed, clean up your bits, but be careful because all these have got little tiny bits of metal in which will stick in your fingers and hurt. Now that's a mess, isn't it? So we need to work on this. First thing we're going to do is twist all our tails until they're in a position we like. Just facing the right way and not absolutely perfect. Again, you're going to have to move this, put it where you want it to go, but just to get things roughly where you want them and roughly facing the direction you like. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to subscribe because I've got lots more tutorials and crafts coming up and you don't want to miss any of them. Right, so when we've done all our tails roughly, again, not perfectly, try to resist the urge to fiddle, like I can tell resisting the urge to fiddle. And then start floofing out your loops. And now this starts to come to life. And there you got, that is a lovely bow. Now you can do a few things with this. You can leave your tails on of your pipe cleaners to attach it to something there. One thing I like doing, and it sounds a bit crazy, but if you get a dowel or something like that and pop it up in there, I haven't got one to hand, I should have got one really. I'll put my ruler up and you can make yourself a lovely flower to go in a vase. Sounds a bit crazy, but if you've got a big vase and 2 or 3 of these, they just look fabulous. So don't forget, it's not going to be perfect. Wait until it's in its final place, and then you can really spend some time getting these loops looking absolutely out of this world. But there's more bows to come. We got more work to do. Don't forget, in the description you will see a timestamp that if you click on it, it'll take you to the particular bow that you want to make, so that you can keep coming back and checking out if you forget how to make them, or you just need a little bit more information as to how to do it. Now I'm going to make a smart bow, and it is exactly as the name implies, it's a very smart looking bow. I'm going to use a pipe cleaner for this. You can wire it if you want to. So decide on how big you want your bow to be. I'm using 2.5 inch ribbon. Make yourself a bow shape on the desk in front of you, or the table. So I'm going to want tails fairly long, and then come over a little bit longer in a crisscross pattern. And you can make these any size you want within reason. It all depends on how stiff the wire is in your ribbon, things like that. So I'm going to go for about that size, and I'm going to cut off my excess. Then scrunch the bow in the middle. Make sure it is the middle. Check. Yep, that's the middle. And put a pipe cleaner around, or your wire, or whatever it is you're using. Open your pipe cleaner out like that if you're going to be using your pipe cleaner to attach it to something else, and also try to do it a bit more evenly than I've done. Cut yourself off a piece of matching ribbon. Fold both ends into the centre like that, and then glue those into place. I'm not gluing them into place because my glue gun's gone cool. I forgot I've turned it off, so it's warming up now while I carry on. Put your centre bit, or your loopy bit, on the desk. Put your bow on top of it. Then make sure your pipe cleaners are out either side. Then out with your hot glue. Glue the top into place. And I'm not going to be pulling this tight like I did on one of the other bows. So I haven't got to be too fussy about letting the glue completely dry. Cut it to size. And then glue that into place. Now if you're using a glittery ribbon like me, put some glue below the glitter as well. Because glitter doesn't tend to want to stick to glitter. Floof up your loops. Check you like the look of it. Yes. And now I'm going to just dovetail the ends. And look at that for a smart bow that you can attach to anything using your pipe cleaner on the back. Or you can snip the pipe cleaner short and glue this into place on something. So let's get on with the next bow. And for this next bow, I don't know if it fits into a category of a particular bow all on its own, but I'm going to use some of this Deco mesh, and it's in like a glittery red, and this will make an absolutely stunning bow. Each side of the bow I'm going to have 1 foot wide, and then come down another 2 feet. Scrunch this up in the middle. Oop, take my scissors off there. Tie it in with a pipe cleaner. Now I'm going to cut 3 feet of Deco mesh. This is a 2.5 inch wide glittery one with the edging on. Fold it in half and put it on the front of the bow there. I'm going to bring the pipe cleaner around once more and fix it. And that has put a pair of tails on top of the bow. And now I've got this little bit left. It did take, I will warn you, this took virtually a whole roll, but it's well worth it when you see the finished product. So this is going to be going in the middle there. Turn over your bow. And then the same principle as we did with the other bows. Make sure your pipe cleaners going side to side. Again, a bit more evenly than mine is. Hot glue. Pop that on, watch your fingers because it comes straight through Deco mesh. And you don't want this tight at all. You want it to be lovely and floofy. I do recommend plenty of glue because, again, glitter on glitter is never happy to stick. Because my scissors is non-stick. I know, I thought, why would I want a non-stick scissors? It's great for pinning down very large areas of hot glue without using your fingers. And now your Deco mesh will stay floof because it's quite firm. So now you've got the option. You can put a decoration on here. You can put a little bow on top again. I think it spoils the look. I like these to look quite classic. But I do like the extra addition of these tails that dangle down in amongst the Deco mesh at the bottom. So now all we need to do is to even them up. I'm going to make them slightly shorter than the tails of the big bow. And then they should curl a little bit so that they stand out even more. So this is difficult to show you, but it is absolutely fabulous. I can only show you half at a time, but look at that. That is really spectacular. You could put this on top of a tree and use it as a tree topper. You can put it on your door. You can put it on a chair back. You can hang it on the wall. You can do lots of things with this. If you've got somebody a very big gift for Christmas, you can put it on the gift and imagine the impact that's going to make. For this last bow, I wanted to show you something that really is effective for your floppy ribbon to make a very professional looking country style bow. So easy, anybody can make this. So I just wanted to end with a nice simple but not boring bow. So this is double-sided again. It doesn't matter which way it's facing, so you'll be fine with this. But if you've got ribbon that does face in one direction, make sure you've got all the good sides facing out. Make yourself a bow shape. Now, because this is a 2-inch and then I'm going to use this 1-inch, I don't want too big a bow. So I think about like that, which, in case you're wondering, is about 4 inches wide. Chop my tails off. Scrunch it up. And this time I'm going to use some twine. So if you haven't got pipe cleaners, all is not lost. Use your twine. I find the quickest way to use twine on this sort of bow, because you don't want it to come undone, is to fold it in half, make a loop, put the loop behind the bow, put the tail bit through that loop, and then you can pull it tight rather than have to tie it. Then I'm going to take this inch wide burlap. Again, you don't need to worry about any particular side. It's a floppy ribbon, but that's not going to be a problem at all. Make your bow shape slightly smaller, so mine is about 3 inches across. I'm going to cut my tails off. Then I'm going to scrunch it. And with this here, I'm going to bring one piece of twine to the bottom, one to the top, bring it around the front, and tie it into place while holding the whole thing together. This is fiddly. I could say, no, it's not fiddly, but it is, especially when you've left your scissors underneath your arm and it keeps clattering. Shush, move over there. That's better. And then I tie 2 knots on the back. And now you've got this string to attach it to anything you want it to, and it's not at the front because it doesn't work at the front. Now that looks okay, but it needs a little something. Now I'm going to get my 1-inch gingham. Make sure I got some nice tail length and chop it off. And then this I'm going to put on the front, but I'm not going to tie this on because I want it to hide all the tie-in. So a little bit of hot glue. You don't need much. Pop it into place and watch you don't burn your fingers. And now I'm levelling up my tails, but I'm not going to dovetail the burlap because I like the sort of casual look of the burlap, and I think it doesn't suit dovetails as well as the others. And I love the contrast. So now we got our tie around the back for attaching it. And there are 3 layers of that bow, and I just think that looks stunning. It's so pretty, so country, and so professional looking. If you were to buy a bow like that in a shop, well, I got this bag of bows. These were 3 for £1. I didn't pay that. I paid 10p in the sale. And that's all that is the bow shape I showed you with some wire holding it. So they work out 33p each. Can you imagine how much a bow like this would cost with 3 separate layers on? With all that interest, a really nice attachment, you're looking at a couple of £. And you just made it for pennies. Because it doesn't take a lot of ribbon. You can make it the size you got. If you've only got smaller lengths of ribbon, just make a smaller bow. Right, now we've got to the exciting part. It's time for some interesting tail talk. Now, what are you going to do with your tails? They're okay, but they're a bit tatty looking. What can you do with these? Well, I'm going to show you some tips to make your tails look absolutely superb, just as superb as your loops. So there are a few different options you've got. Now, first thing I'm going to show you before we do anything else with these tails is how to do a dovetail. If you've got yourself a piece of ribbon, I'll use this bit here, and you're trying to cut a dovetail. So you think, right, it's got to go up on there, and then up on there, and no, that's not right. So then you go there, and then there, no, that's not right, and it doesn't cut right. Oh, I don't know, how do you make dovetails? It's really easy. Let me show you the secret the bow makers have. Take the end of your ribbon, fold it in half, and you want to put your wire away from your scissors, and then cut up to your wire. And there you've got yourself 2 perfectly even points on your dovetail. I always learn to put the wires this side away from your scissors and snip up, because sometimes you get it wrong, you snip the wrong way, and oh, you haven't got a dovetail, you've got like that, a point. So that's why. So let's do it on this one, and the way to make sure they're roughly the same length is hold them here and then mark with your finger or with your memory where the bottom of the dovetail comes. Fold it in half. Then you want to put your wired end away from your scissors, cut up to your wire, and another perfect dovetail. Fold your ribbon, wire away from the scissors, cut up to the wire. Don't forget, if you need to refresh your memory when you're doing this thing, I'll have a timestamp in the description saying cutting dovetails. So, or easy way to cut dovetails, or easy way to cut perfect dovetails. So that sounds even better, because it is the best way to do it. So now you've got your long dangly bits. What are you going to do with them? Well, there's a couple of options. So if you get your tails and then you fold them up, and I would advise you do both of them at the same time, next door to each other, turn them up, and then an inch later, turn them down again. An inch each, it hasn't got to be exactly an inch, and then up and down. And once you've measured the one turn, you can just do one side, then the other, like that. And then the same with this side, down, up, down, up, down, like that. And now, gently open them out, and look at that. Isn't that pretty? And if it doesn't work right, don't worry. Just flatten them out and then start again. But I've got these long ones. What am I going to do with these? Start at the top, put your fingers in the ribbon like this, and then coil them around. Now, this one isn't very good because it hasn't got the strongest wire in, but it'll do. And then do the same on this side. Put your fingers in, and then roll it around. I would recommend you do your bottom tails, then your top tails, because I'm squashing and mangling my top tails. Like that. And then pull them down gently, like that. Make sure they're round, pull them down as much as you want to. And now look, you've got folded tails with curly bits on the bottom. Or you can do all curls or all folds per bow, but I just wanted to show you 2 methods on this bow of how to make your tails look a little bit more interesting. Is there anything else you can do? I'll show you now. So here's a bow I just really whipped up quickly, just to show you a few more dovetail ends. This is a little bit out there. You may like this, you may not. Oh, as you can see, the join on that piece of ribbon came right where I didn't want it to be. Remember, I showed it to you right back at the beginning of the video and said, check your ribbon before you make a bow. Right then, so we're going to make long dovetails. Now, these are really weird. Fold your ribbon in half and put your metal end away from your scissors and cut down towards your scissors, but take forever to do it. Go the long way around, like that. Like that. And then one thing I like to do when I've done this, it's not the sort of thing you want to do all the time. You may want to do it occasionally, and you can give your little tails, or your large tails, a curl like that. And I think they almost look like jesters for some. That's what I see when I look at these. I think they're lovely like that. So there's something else you can do with your dovetails and your tails. But there's another idea as well to make your bows look extra special, much more professional, and so easy. So I've got this ribbon. It's wired and it's about 2 inches wide. So I'm going to make myself another set of tails. I want these to be a little bit shorter than the other tail, so about there. Chop it off. I'm going to cut this ribbon in half. The same height on both pieces. And then I'm going to get a bell. Thread this ribbon through the bell. Tie a knot. And then I like to put a little blob of hot glue in there just to keep the bell firmly tied. And then do the same on the other side. I'm just going to even them out a little bit so they almost look like mini bows. You've also got the option to cut those right off and put, this isn't quite big enough, but you could put a little bow on the top there to hide the knot if you wanted to as well. There's so many different alternatives you can do with these sort of things. Now you can either put your pipe cleaner through to attach it, which is what I'm going to do, or you can glue it into place. It's up to you. And now look at that. That is absolutely crazy and I love it. I'm not happy with these ends, so I'm going to do a proper dovetail. Wire away from the scissors. Cut up to the wire. Oh yes, I think that's much better. So look at that. That is a crazy, wacky looking bow. But you can add these little touches to any bow you make. And I am a particular fan of putting bells on the end of these bows. But you can also put Christmas baubles on if you want to. I just think they're very, very cute. So that's 10 ideas on how to make a professional looking bow, high-end looking bow really easily. And I'm sure you can do it. Even if you get it wrong a few times, you're going to get there in the end. I know you're going to. With the right ribbon and a little bit of imagination, you can make a bow for any season, any time of year, and it will look fabulous. Whew, that was a marathon. Well done if you've stuck it right to the end. It was such fun making all those things. I still have glitter now around my studio from the first ever crafts I made with glitter. If you use glitter, it's probably with you for life. You've got glitter everywhere. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give me that thumbs up and subscribe because there are so many more videos coming out. And I'll see you all next time. But until then, don't forget, happy crafting and have fun. Bye!